Hey folks, welcome back. Time for some more Fallout RPG from Modiphius games based on the 2D20 system. So I hope by now most of you out there have had a chance to watch the Fallout series on Amazon, which was amazing. Really enjoyed that. Really glad there's a season 2 confirmed already. Really, I was amazed how accurate it was to the games. Actually, I have to say the same about this role-playing game. It's really gives you the feel of being in the video game, but around the tabletop. So you've got even more freedom to do whatever you like, given that it's a sort of narrative-based role-playing game system, the 2D20 system. So I thought we'd progress from the starter set that we looked at last time now to the big fat core rulebook, and it is a big fat one. You can see pretty chunky. Right from the off, you can see the graphic design here on the back. Very adorable. We've got loads of iterations of our friend Vault Boy here. And it says, "You're special." Special is the word spelled by the main attributes for each character, just like in the video games. It says, "Immerse yourself in the genre-defining setting with the official Fallout tabletop role-playing game. Control your group of original characters, including Vault Dwellers, ghouls, super mutants, and even robots. Tell your own stories of survival in post-nuclear America using a host of non-playable characters and horrific mutated creatures. Use iconic weapons, armor, chems, and items translated straight from the video game. Scavenge the ruins of the old world and make your mark on the wasteland. Finally, utilize the 2D20 system, a role-playing rule set that supports both story-led adventures and detailed gameplay." And that's the key thing here, is that this game is a bit more on the crunchy side of the 2D20 spectrum. I would put Star Trek Adventures at kind of the mid-crunch level compared to this. On the lower end, we have things like maybe Dune, Dishonored, Fallout. You know, this is a game where each character has to have their individual survival journey whilst they're working together as a group. So it makes sense that the characters are more detailed, that they have more actions they can do, and that keeping track of resources is a big deal. And that's what a lot of the extra rules are about in this iteration of 2D20. So without further ado, let's go diving right in. We've got the scary TV test pattern there, which we would expect to see in the event of a nuclear apocalypse. And we can see Vault Boy there giving us the thumbs up as we look at the table of contents. Now, I've read some people complaining online about the ordering of the rules and character creation and all that stuff in this book. I personally don't have a problem with it. I have to imagine that the people who complained about that have never played a Chronicles of Darkness game. Those games, the organization of the rules makes no sense at all, but they're still playable, and this game certainly is not as bad as that. So what is interesting about it is that you start with a little introduction to the setting, then you get the core rules right off the bat, and then the combat rules right off the bat, including healing and the environment. Then we go into character creation, and I think that actually makes sense, because given that the rules are a bit more complex in this game, you kind of want to get those under your feet a little bit before you actually go into character creation. Then we have equipment, which is a pretty hefty section, as you can see. It's about 100 pages. Then we have a bunch of stuff about staying alive, including scavenging and crafting. Then we have our background stuff in gray here. So the background about corporations of pre-war America, Vault Tech in particular, and then the Commonwealth, which is the post-nuclear war setting in which the game begins. Now, this game is based on Fallout 4, which is primarily centered around the Commonwealth. Then the green stuff here is our game mastering info. So we have general game mastering stuff, how to capture the Fallout experience. Then we have some denizens of the wasteland, basically adversaries, NPCs you might run into. Then we have a introductory adventure, and then some appendices, including a character sheet, topping out at 430 pages, so pretty hefty. So if you'll forgive me, I'm going to do my usual deep dive here, but we will go fairly quickly. So I'm assuming at this point, if you've come to this video, you probably already know something about the Fallout universe, and you have some interest in it. So you'll know, for example, that in the game, the characters have RPG-like attributes, which spell out the word special, and that's the same case here. So they use lots of cute graphic design to illustrate that here, and they give you a nice sort of overview of the fact that this is a really wide open game. Basically, you can play it as almost like a wide open hex crawl across the wasteland. You can try and become mercenaries and bad people. You can prey on traders. You can just try and build up lots of caps by doing things for people and build a settlement. Whatever you want to do is possible in this game. And because you can play as not just humans, but also various types of wastelanders, you really can have a viewpoint from many different aspects of the wasteland. So it's pretty cool in this game that they give you all those options right off the bat. So we have our standard stuff. What do you need? Dice. Now, we saw these in the starter set video, but basically you want to have 5 2d20s minimum, and then you'll need these additional dice called combat dice in this game. They have sides with 1 pip, sides with 2 pips, 2 blank sides, and then 2 sides with Vault Boy's face, which counts as like a pip plus an effect. And we'll see what that means in the combat chapter. You also need some tokens, chips, or caps, which also come in the starter set, and you can use those to track action points, which is the equivalent in this game of momentum and threat in something like Star Trek Adventures. So these are your kind of narrative meta currency, if you like. And of course, you'll need paper and pencil for your character sheet and all that sort of stuff. Then you get right into the core rules. I mean, they explain things really well here. They got a nice little diagram. So every skill test works basically the same. You choose an attribute plus skill. You'll add those numbers together, and that's your target number. Then you roll 2d20s minimum. You can buy additional d20s to roll with your action points if you have some in the pool. Then you need to roll below that target number, and each d20 that comes up below that target number counts as a success. However, the GM will also set a difficulty between 1 to 5, and that's the number of successes you need to pass the test. So obviously with 2 dice, you can't get 5 successes. However, if you roll a 1 on a d20, that counts as 2. So with 2 dice minimum, the bare minimum, you can get up to 4 successes maximum. But if you spend 1 action point, you can get a third die. If you spend 2 action points, you can get a fourth one. If you spend 3 more, for a total of 6, you can get 5 d20s to roll. So that can give you a lot of possible successes. So you roll your dice pool after you've spent any action points if you wanted to buy more, and then you check for successes. If you get a 1, that's a critical, but also when you add your attribute plus skill, if your skill is something called a tag skill, which is marked on your character sheet, then any number on the d20 that's less than or equal to your skill rating in that tag skill also counts as critical success. So if you have a tag skill rating of 3, a crit will not just be on a 1, but on 1 to a 3. And if you get a 20, then you get a complication, which doesn't mean you don't succeed. It just means something else happens that makes your life a bit more difficult. Then you check a number of successes against difficulty, and if you equal or exceed the difficulty, then you pass. And if you have any extra successes, you can bank those as action points. You can use those action points right away if you want, or like to do extra damage or do other things, or you can save them in the communal pool for the whole table, but that can only be a maximum of 6 action points for the players. The GM, however, can have an unlimited number of action points, as we'll see later. So you have some nice examples here, a lovely little summary chart, but that's basically, I mean, that's the core mechanic behind virtually everything. Then they talk about a little bit more detail of how test difficulty works. Difficulty 1 would be shooting somebody at close range, easy to hit them. Difficulty 2 would be breaking down a reinforced door or treating an injury, something a little bit harder. All the way up to 5 where you're trying to shoot a target at long range on a stormy night. So they're giving you some nice examples there. They also point out that each skill list has a default attribute associated with the skill, but at the GM's discretion, you can suggest a different combo. They give an example of if you want to identify the make of a weapon, you might use your intelligence plus your small gun skill. That kind of mixing and matching of attribute and skill is possible, but it's up to the GM's discretion. Now for complications, basically makes things a little bit more difficult, introducing a new problem to the scene. Could be something like, okay, you hit your target with your shot, but now your gun is jammed, so you need to spend an action next round to clear it. Could be that you insulted somebody in an interaction and you need to now have a +1 difficulty next time you try to negotiate with them. Little things like that that just add some flavor to the action. You have limited resources in this game, so there's lots of ways to play with complications as a GM, which can be quite fun. And if the GM doesn't feel like or doesn't want to come up with a complication in the moment, they can just gain 1 action point for them that they can then use against you in the future. So then they talk about the dice pool. So obviously you can max out at 5d20, but you can also have assists which don't count toward that total, which we'll get to in a minute. Talk about difficulty 0 tests. So some tests may be a difficulty 0 by default, or they may be reduced to 0 because of some talent or bonus that you have. At the GM's discretion, they can let you roll anyway, and then every success that you roll is just gravy. You just get action points. And that can also be useful to work out, well, if you've done this mundane task that's really easy, how well have you done it? If you scored 3 successes, maybe you did it super fast. Use the GM's discretion to kind of add a little bit of flavor to these basic actions. If you don't roll, you can choose not to roll, and then you automatically succeed anyway. If it's difficulty 0, it's just up to you. Then we have opposed tests. So these, again, work exactly the same as we saw in the starter set. So basically, the opposing characters, they have to spend their action points first if they want to. The opposing character will do that first, and then the active character will then spend their AP after that and then roll. So when you succeed in an opposed test, you generate action points by comparing your result to your opponent's. When you're rolling against an established difficulty, any extra successes generate AP as normal. When you're the one to roll first, you establish a difficulty for the opponent in an opposed test, and then the active player will score 1 AP for each success, more than your number of successes, or vice versa. So if the opposing player wins, not the active player, then if they get more successes than you, they'll get extra action points for that. There's also the possibility of increased difficulties in opposed tests. So if you're trying to sneak up on somebody, or somebody's trying to sneak up on you and it's dark, which would make it harder for you to see them anyway, you can give them 1 bonus success already before they even roll. Then we have the assistance mechanic, which I really like, same as in Star Trek and other 2d20 games. So if you declare you're going to assist someone, describe how you're doing that. The GM will give you an attribute plus skill combo to use, which may not be the same as what the active player is using. It doesn't have to be. Then you get to roll 1d20, and that's it. That's the maximum you can roll. And if the player that you're assisting rolls any successes, then any success you roll on your d20 are added to theirs as well. But your assisting dice don't count towards the 5d20 maximum for the player. This is a sort of bonus on top of that. that. And critical successes and complications work as normal. Then you have group tests. So if you have a group that wants to do a large activity like sneak through an area together, you pick somebody as the leader based on their skill levels and what you're trying to do. And they'll roll a normal dice pool. They can buy action points, all that kind of stuff. Everybody else will roll a assistance roll using their own attribute plus skill. As long as the test leader achieved one success, everyone will add any successes they generated to the leader's score. So if that accumulated score then beats the difficulty, then the whole group gets through the thing. Any complication generated by anyone rolling a 20 can be applied after resolving the test and its consequences. So this is things like, you're trying to sneak through an enemy encampment together, or you're trying to get through a pool of radioactive sludge, stuff like that. The other thing is that the GM can increase the complication range. So if some actions are riskier, like maybe you're trying to repair a gun that's been sitting out in the nuclear wasteland for 100 years, and it's more likely that it might just pop or blow up on you, then the GM could say, well, instead of a complication just on the 20, I'm going to give you complications on an 18 to 20. That's a perilous activity on the table here. The most you can go is to have a complication range of 5, so 16 to 20, and that's treacherous. But that's a nice little lever that the GM can pull as well. If they decide that what you're doing is not more challenging as such, but it's just more likely that something could go wrong while you're trying to do your thing, then they can change the complication range. There's also the possibility they can grant you success at a cost. So if you fail a test that's quite critical, and the GM wants you to kind of fail forward, if you like, they can say, well, you achieved that, but you can't spend any action points to improve the outcome. And in exchange, you'll get a complication. Normally, that'll just be one complication, and you can choose to just fail it if you think the complication is too rough. It's a nice option to have, again, at the GM's discretion. So then we have our action points have various different functions, as they do in all the 2d20 games. So on the player side, you can buy d20s. So your bonus d20s, the costs are laid out on the table here. So 1 AP gives you 1 bonus d20, 3 to get 2 d20s, spend a total of 6 to get 3 d20s for a total of 5. So you always get 2 d20 by default. Maximum is 5 if you spend 6 action points, which is the maximum you can have in your group pool. You can also spend 1 action point to get information. So you ask the GM a single question about your situation, and the GM will answer truthfully, but the answer need not be complete. You spend 2 AP to reduce the time taken for a test to complete. In combat, you can spend AP to take an additional minor action, a maximum of 1 additional minor action, for 1 AP, or an additional major action, maximum of 1 additional action. Any skill test you attempt is increased in difficulty by +1 if you take an additional major action. You can also add extra damage, so if you're using a melee attack or a thrown weapon, you can spend 1 action point on a 1-for-1 basis to get up to 3 additional combat dice on your damage roll. So that's it. And if you don't want to use your action points right away, if you gain them on a test, of course you can save them in the group pool, and that can only have a total of 6. The Game Master's pool is unlimited in size, and they start the game with 1 AP per player in the game. As well, if you don't have action points, then you can instead give action points to the GM. Now you can only use that method to buy additional d20s. Unfortunately, you can't use that for the other methods of using AP, including extra damage, additional actions, only for buying d20s in Fallout. You do, however, have an additional attribute in Fallout called luck. So luck works like an attribute, but also not. So you can spend points out of your luck attribute. So you can spend a luck point to introduce a helpful fact or detail about the situation you're in. So you could say, oh, it just so happens that this ammo I found is exactly the kind that my gun needs. How convenient. Okay, spend a luck point. The GM might prompt you to say, you can spend a luck point to do this, or they can veto your suggestions or ask you to spend more than 1 luck point if it's a particularly vital thing that you're asking for. You can also spend 1 point of luck before a skill test to use luck instead of the default attribute. Obviously, that only makes sense if your luck is bigger than your default attribute for that test. You'd also use it for what's called lucky timing. So in a combat encounter, immediately after any other creature or character has acted, or at the start of the round, you can spend 1 luck to interrupt the initiative order and act immediately. That counts as your turn, so you don't get like a second turn, but it just means you can interrupt action order and jump in whenever you feel is the most useful for you. Finally, you can spend 1 or more luck points to re-roll dice in a dice pool you roll. You can re-roll 1 d20 or up to 3 combat dice by spending 1 luck point, and you can spend multiple luck points on a roll. They also have a note here about your personal trinkets, so these are things that your character has, have value to them in this horrible wasteland. Once per quest outside of combat, you can spend a few moments looking at your trinket and gain 1 luck point back. Regaining luck is pretty simple, so basically you start your quest with your luck points equal to your luck attribute. Once you've spent a point, it can't be used again until you reach either a major quest milestone or you finish a quest. Then everything gets refreshed. So you can never have more luck points than your luck attribute. And then we get straight into combat. Nice 2-page spread here, and this guy is going, oh crap. But yeah, combat is a lot of fun in this game. So as usual in 2D20, it's actually not that complicated. You have a 4-step sequence of play. You initiate combat. So the player who started the fight, they take their turn right away. So whoever wants to shoot first will shoot first. And then after that, the game master will rank the combatants in order of their initiative stat from highest to lowest. And then the first round begins. So the character with the highest initiative goes first. And then each character takes a turn in order of highest to lowest. If there's a tie, the GM decides who goes first. And then once the last character has completed their turn, the round ends. And then you go back to the start of the initiative order and keep going until the conflict ends. Your initiative stat is equal to your perception plus your agility, plus any bonuses you might get from equipment or perks, which are the equivalent of talents in this game. A creature's initiative is equal to their body plus mind scores, which we'll see more about later. And a character NPC's initiative is calculated the same as player characters, so perception plus agility. Some powerful NPCs will have bonuses. Now in each turn in combat, you get 1 major and 1 minor action, unless you spend 1 AP to get an additional minor action or 2 AP to get an additional major action, but that again increases your difficulty of the second major action by 1. You cannot take more than 2 minor actions and major actions on your turn by any means. You can only take 1 movement action as well. So minor actions include aiming your weapon, so that allows you to reroll your first 1d20 on the attack roll you make this turn, draw an item, or pick up an object within your reach, or you can put away an item. You can interact with something, like open a door or push a button. You can move, so you can move up to 1 zone. We have a zone-based combat system in this game, good for theater of the mind. Alternatively, you can stand up if you were knocked prone. You can take a dose of chem, things like Radaway or stim packs or whatever. And they have some notes here as well about prone, so when you're knocked prone by attacks or hazards or complications, then the move action becomes a major action instead of minor, and you can't take the sprint action. And while you're prone, enemies at medium range or further add +1 to the difficulty of attacks against you because you have a smaller profile. But on the other hand, if they're at close range, then melee attacks and close range attacks, difficulty reduces by 1 to a minimum of 0. While you're prone, you can reroll any cover dice you have. So that's something we'll get to when we get to cover. So major actions, you've got a lot of options here. You've got assist, so you can assist another character with their next test if they're doing something that needs your help. You can make a melee or ranged attack, of course. You can command an NPC if you have an allied NPC who is under your control, like maybe a robot or a friend you've met along the way. You can choose an action for them to take, and then you can automatically assist using charisma plus speech if the NPC is a person, charisma plus survival if the NPC is an animal, or intelligence plus science if the NPC is a robot. You can also defend, so you make agility plus athletics test with a difficulty equal to your current defense. If you succeed, add +1 to your defense. For 2 AP, add an extra +1 to your defense. You can also do first aid to patch the wounds of yourself or an ally, make an int plus medicine test with a difficulty equal to the number of injuries the patient has, and increase the difficulty by 1 if you're trying to perform it on yourself. If you succeed, you can either heal HP equal to your medicine rating, treat 1 injury the patient is suffering from, or stabilize a dying patient, all of which are very important. You choose to pass, don't know why, but you could. You can rally, so you grit your teeth, catch your breath, and prepare yourself. Make an endurance plus survival test with a difficulty of 0, and save any action points you generate. So you can also use different attributes for this, like if you want to make an inspiring speech, you could use charisma plus speech. You can also ready, so you describe a situation, like I think that Brotherhood of Steel guy in his T60 is going to fire, and then describe a major action you want to take when that happens. When that action occurs before the start of your next turn, you perform your major action immediately, interrupting other characters' actions as necessary. If more than one character has readied an action for the same situation, their ready actions occur in initiative order. Then you can sprint, which is a movement action that allows you to move 2 zones up to long range away. And finally, you can perform a skill test. And then there's a reminder here about action points and combat encounters, which we already went through. So making an attack, you choose a weapon in your target. So it'll be a single creature, character, or object. If it's a melee weapon, they have to be within your reach. If you're using a ranged weapon, the target has to be visible. You can choose a hit location if you want, but that increases the difficulty of the attack by 1. If you don't choose a hit location, you roll it randomly if you hit. After you make that choice, you will attempt your test. So if you're doing a melee attack, you roll strength plus melee weapons test with the difficulty equal to your target's defense. For a ranged weapon, you roll agility plus small guns, endurance plus big guns, or perception plus energy weapons, based on what type of weapon you're using, with the difficulty equal to your target's defense. And that's modified by the range of the target. If you're having a thrown weapon attack, then you roll perception plus explosives, or agility plus throwing test, depending on what you're using, with a difficulty equal to the target's defense, and modified by range, like ranged weapons. If it's an unarmed attack, then you roll strength plus unarmed, with a difficulty equal to your target's defense, and again, you have to be within reach. So if you hit, then you roll 1d20, or a hit location die, which is part of the Fallout default dice set, a really nice hit location die, to see which part of the target you hit. If you chose a specific hit location to increase difficulty by 1, you can say, well, I chose to hit you in the head, so you got hit in the head. Boom. Finally, you inflict damage. So you roll a number of combat dice listed by the weapon's damage rating, plus any bonuses from your derived stats, or from action points or ammo spent. Reduce the target's health points by the total rolled. The target then reduces the damage inflicted by their damage resistance against the damage type. So there are 4 different types of damage: physical, energy, radiation, and poison. And characters and creatures have different DRs for different types of damage. So you need to look at what kind of damage your weapon does, reduce it by the appropriate damage resistance number on the opponent, and whatever is left is the damage that goes through. If you made a ranged attack, you remove 1 shot of ammunition, and if you spent any additional shots of ammunition, which you can do to increase the damage, as we'll see, then you remove those as well. If you make it a thrown weapon attack, remove the thrown weapon from your inventory. So there's the hit location table. So if you want to use a regular D20, they give you this handy table here. Some creatures, though, have different kinds of hit locations. So they have an example here for like a quadruped or a flying insect. So then you have wings and might have 4 legs, stuff like that. Then we talk about range bands. So we have close, medium, long, and extreme. And each weapon will have listed an ideal range. So if you have a scoped hunting rifle in the example here with long range, then if you fire at medium or extreme, you add +1 to difficulty. If you go a range band further out from that, like close, then you would add 2 to the difficulty. And they summarize that all in a nice table here, so it's easy to remember. And then talk about combat dice. So again, you can use a regular D6 if you want, or you can use specialized combat dice that are made for the game. So you roll these when you hit with your weapon. Any pips that you get give you the same amount of damage as the number of pips. And if you get a Vault Boy face, then you get 1 damage plus a damage effect triggers. Different weapons may have a damage effect that happens, like they might get knocked down, different kinds of stuff like that. You can also do sneak attacks. So if the enemy doesn't know you're there, then it reduces the difficulty to hit them by 1, and your attack gains the vicious damage effect, which means that for every effect rolled, you get an additional damage point, so 2 damage plus an effect. If you already have vicious on your weapon, you get +2 combat dice, which is pretty cool. If you reduce your difficulty to hit your opponent to 0 by doing a sneak attack, you don't have to roll to hit them, but you can still do so to generate AP and complications as normal. Then you can increase your damage, so you can spend AP on melee, unarmed, and thrown weapons up to a maximum of 3 on a 1-for-1 basis to get more combat die, so up to 3 more combat die. For ranged weapons, you can spend additional units of ammunition to add +1 combat die to your damage roll in your damage dice pool. So you can spend ammunition up to the gun's fire rate. You can also use combat dice for random quantities, so when you're using the loot tables to scavenge a location, you use the combat dice to work out what you managed to find. Then we have our damage types. So again, we got physical, that's your typical unarmed attacks, blunt force, slashing and stabbing, and ballistic damage, like bullets. Energy weapons, laser, plasma, and flames. Radiation would be exposure to rads or nuclear weapons. Poisons are toxins, chemicals, creatures, stings, and barbs. Each target has a damage resistance for each of these types. Then we have some list of damage effects. So these are possible effects that can happen when you roll an effect on your combat dice. So for example, burst, you hit 1 additional target within close range of the primary target for each effect rolled. Each additional target spends 1 additional unit of ammunition from the weapon. If it's breaking, then reduce the number of combat dice it target's cover provides by 1 permanently, so you can blow apart your opponent's cover. If the target is not in cover, then you reduce the damage resistance of the location struck by 1 according to the damage type of the weapon. Then we have other stuff like persistent, where damage can recur over different turns. Piercing, where you ignore X points of the target's damage resistance for each effect rolled, where X is the rating of the damage effect. Radioactive, so that means for every effect rolled, the target also gets a point of radiation damage. You can have spread, so for each effect rolled, your target inflicts 1 additional hit, which is half the rolled damage rounded down, and hits a random location on the target. Then we have stun, so for each effect rolled, the target cannot take their normal actions on the next turn, but they can still spend AP to do so. Finally, you got vicious, so that's what I mentioned before, where your attack gets +1 damage for each effect rolled. Now, radiation damage, so why is that so tough? Well, it's applied differently from the other damage types for a start. Each point of radiation damage reduces a character's maximum health points rather than their current health points until you remove that radiation damage. If your maximum health points end up dipping below your current health points, then you have to also reduce your current health points to that level as well. It also points out that the radiation damage is only reduced by a target's radiation damage resistance according to the location hit, but if the radiation would affect the whole body, then the character would use their lowest locational radiation DR. In all situations, you resolve all the other damage first and then the radiation damage after. It's pretty rough, and the only way you can get rid of radiation damage is to use stuff like Radaway or other kinds of treatments that will remove your radiation damage. It's not something that heals by itself. Then there's a little sidebar about breaking things. So you do it the same as with characters, basically. Shoot at the thing, roll the weapon's damage dice, damage rating, subtract the object's damage resistance, and reduce its health. And the object will have an amount of health depending on what the GM decides. If you inflict a critical hit on the object by inflicting 5 or more damage at once, then you've broken it. Large objects like vehicles may have multiple locations. There's a lot more on that in one of the supplement rulebooks. And they're destroyed when all their locations are broken. Then we have damage and injuries. So critical hit is the important concept here, basically. You have your health points. Once you reduce to 0, you're defeated and start dying. That's when you need somebody to come in and use first aid and stabilize you and stuff like that. The other thing that can happen is if you get 5 or more damage in one hit after damage reduction is applied, then you get an injury. And that will confer a penalty depending on which part of the body was hit. So if your arm was hit, you drop any object that was in your arm, and the arm is broken or otherwise unable to move. You can't use any actions with that arm. If it was your leg that takes a critical, you immediately fall prone. You can't sprint, and the move action is now a major action, so you have to crawl. If you get hit in the torso with a crit, you begin bleeding heavily. At the end of each subsequent turn, you suffer 2 combat dice physical damage, ignoring all your damage resistance as you start to bleed out. Finally, if you get critted in the head, you're momentarily dazed and lose your actions for the next turn, though you can spend AP for extra actions as normal. Further, you can't see clearly and increase the difficulty of all tests which rely on vision by +2. And these effects will all last until the injury has received medical attention. So again, first aid, very important. They talk about the dying status. When your character is reduced to 0 HP, they suffer an injury to the location struck and then fall prone and start dying. So if you suffer a critical hit by getting 5 damage and you get reduced to 0, you actually get 2 injuries, one for the critical hit, one for being reduced to 0. While they're dying, the character is unconscious, they can't recover HP from the first aid action, and can't take any actions. Furthermore, at the start of each of your turns, you must attempt an endurance plus survival test with a difficulty equal to the number of injuries they have and a complication range of 19 to 20. If you pass, you're still alive, but dying. If you fail, you just die. If you take any damage while you're dying, you immediately get an additional injury, in addition to any injury caused if it's another critical hit. So yeah, being in the dying state is real bad. You really want to get somebody out of it as quickly as possible. So how do you do that? Well, you're healing. As they note here, medicine, survival are the most useful skills for healing. Taking chems, one thing you can do. So stim packs can restore health points really quickly. You can just use a minor action to use them. You can use first aid. Each injury will increase difficulty by +1 on your in plus medicine test. And we already know you can use it to stabilize, heal HP, or treat one injury. So those are all really handy. First aid action you can also use for stabilizing. If you successfully stabilize someone, then they go to 1 HP and aren't dying anymore, but they're still unconscious and can't perform actions. Unfortunately, if their radiation damage reduced them to 0 HP, then they can't be stabilized until you give them some Radaway or something to get rid of that radiation damage. That's even worse. If you stabilize the patient, you can spend additional AP to heal additional health. So you can heal 1 HP for every AP spent. You can also spend 1 AP to wake them from unconsciousness, allowing them to act. So that's quite handy. So after you stabilize them and you spend those AP maybe for additional health or to get them back to consciousness, then you can do first aid action to give them HP after that. If you do successful injury treatment, then basically you ignore the penalties of that injury. It's not fully healed, it's just been patched up, so you don't have the penalty. But then you'll have to worry about that injury being reopened. So if you suffer any damage to a location that has a treated injury, roll 1 combat die, and if you roll an effect, the damage has reopened the wound and the injury takes effect again. And completely recovering from an injury takes time. Then there's some sidebars here about using stim packs. A stim pack will immediately recover 4 HP or treat 1 injury for a willing patient. And if you eject somebody who's dying, they stabilize right away. So stim packs are really good. A first aid action, if you use a stim pack as part of that, then you get 4 HP immediately in addition to any other effects. And any AP spent to heal additional health points heals twice as much. So you get 2 HP per AP spent. If you're healing robots, you need to use an int plus repair test with a difficulty of 2, increased by +1 for each injury the machine has suffered. Passing the test restores HP equal to your repair rating, treats an injury, or stabilizes a dying machine. A repair kit works like a stim pack does for living creatures. Then we have our long-term recovery. So this needs to take place through rest. If you can sleep for at least 6 hours, you regain all lost HP. If you're able to get 8 hours of sleep somewhere safe and comfortable, then you're considered well rested, and your maximum HP is increased by +2 until you next sleep. When you sleep, if you have any injuries, make an endurance plus survival test with a difficulty of 1. The complication range increases by +1 for each injury that has not been treated. If you succeed, you may recover from one of those injuries, plus an additional one for every 2 AP spent. And the difficulty of this test varies based on how active you were during the day preceding that test. So it seems like, a lot of detail, but again, this is a game about survival. So this kind of stuff really matters. So if you had a restful day, it's only difficulty of 1, but if you had a heavy day where you're traveling and combating, it would be a difficulty of 4. Food and drink will also restore HP, but you can't consume them during combat. You have to sit down and eat them. Some food and drink will be irradiated, especially consumed raw. So you roll a combat dice in that case. And if you roll an effect, you suffer 1 radiation damage, ignoring all DR because it's inside your body. Medical attention is like long-term medical care, so each day of rest and medical attention a patient receives allows you to assist their endurance plus survival test using your own int plus medicine target number. Likewise, for poisons and diseases, you can reduce the difficulty of the test by 1 if this patient spent the entire day resting. Recovering from RADs, radiation damage, can only be removed by administering RADaway or other chems or consumables that remove radiation damage. All right, then the environment. So again, we're working on a zone-based system here like we do with the other 2D20 games. We have our different categories of range. So reach is when somebody's within punching range. Close is any distance within the same zone you're in. So that could be, within a few meters. Medium is any distance to something in the zone adjacent to your current zone. Long is 2 zones away, and extreme is 3 or more zones. So when you do a normal movement, you can move into an adjacent zone with a minor action, or you can use a sprint action as a major action to move to up to 2 zones away. But again, that changes, remember, if you're donked prone, or if you have a crit to your legs, which does the same thing, basically. Then we have some environmental conditions. So cover, as we mentioned a few times before. So cover gives you a number of combat dice that you roll in opposition to your opponent's attack. So roll the number of combat dice listed in the cover values table and add that result to your damage resistance for the attack. To benefit from the cover, it needs to obscure the location hit. So if your head is sticking up and hit you in the head, cover doesn't help you. Difficult terrain and obstacles. So these will affect your movement, so you have to spend AP to get across them. So things like thick mud, swamp, steep slopes, obstacles, like things that require jumping or hopping over. Environmental conditions can also affect certain tests. So if there's poor lighting or darkness, then tests that rely on vision and all range attacks get a +1, +2, or +3 difficulty depending on the light level. Mist and fog increase all difficulty by +1 for range attacks and vision tests if you're at medium range or farther from the enemy. If it's raining, range attacks with energy weapons and survival tests increase in difficulty by +1 or +2, depending on how heavy the rain is. And if it's a rad storm, any creature not in shelter suffers 2 combat dice radiation damage at the start of each turn. And then we have hazards. So these are part of the environment that inflict damage to creatures caught in them. So those are things like falling debris, just falling in general, open flames, electrical discharges, chemical spills, irradiated water, all that kind of stuff. And they give you different kinds of damage. So some of them give you like persistent radiation damage if it's irradiated water. And then you have dangerous objects. So these will be things like mines and traps. Think of examples of like frag mines. It's triggered by entering close proximity. You can try and do a test to get away from it. And if you fail, then you'll take the damage listed here, which would be quite a lot of damage. Basically, the test allows you to either dodge the trap or spot the trigger just in time. Otherwise, boom. Whoever is within the range of the effect will take the damage listed here. All right, then we get into character creation. So this is what we didn't have in the starter set at all. So each character in Fallout is defined by 7 attributes: strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck, or special. We get our lovely little Vault Boy descriptions of each of those, but they're pretty self-explanatory, basically. Luck is not associated with any skills, and it's not the default attribute for any tests. The GM might call for you to use luck in place of another attribute if your success relies more on chance than your skill. And then we have our list of skills. So these can't go below a rank of 0 and can't be increased beyond 6. Skills are athletics, barter, big guns, energy weapons, explosives, lockpick, medicine, melee weapons, pilot, repair, science, small guns, sneak, speech, survival, throwing, and unarmed. Each of them is keyed to a default attribute, which you'll normally roll whenever you roll that skill, and it gives you details of what each of those do, but again, they're pretty self-explanatory. But they all have very cute Vault Boy illustrations for them. But yeah, so these are the typical skills that you'll need to use to survive in the Wasteland. And again, as mentioned before, you can use different attributes with your skill depending on, if the GM agrees with your reasoning, if you're trying to do something unusual with your skill. Then we have your tag skills. So some of your skills are tag skills, meaning those are your particular areas of expertise. So you put a little X in the box on your character sheet and they increase your chance of a crit. So your derived stats, you have a carry weight. So you have a base you can carry of 150 pounds plus your strength attribute multiplied by 10. Some perks will give you the ability to carry more stuff. If you have more weight than your carry weight, it increases the difficulty of strength and agility checks by 1. You can't sprint. You reduce your initiative. If you have 50 pounds more than your carry weight, then you get an additional +1 difficulty. You reduce your initiative by another 1, and that keeps going for each additional 50 pounds until you're getting twice your carry weight, at which point you can't move at all. You automatically fail any strength or agility based skill tests, and your initiative is 0. So that's real bad. Then we have initiative, so that's your perception plus agility, minus any penalties for being over encumbered. You have your defense, so that's the basic difficulty of any attacks made against you, and it's just based on agility, and very simple. Agility 1 to 8, defense is 1, agility 9 plus, defense is 2. Damage resistance, you have different types, so physical, energy, poison, and radiation, as mentioned before. So poison is a little bit different in that you don't have a single DR value for a location. Poison damage is one value for your whole body. Then you have maximum hit points, so you add your endurance and your luck scores. Your melee damage statistic is determined by your strength, so this is like your bonus damage you get with melee weapons or damage that you do with unarmed attacks. So strength 7 to 8 you get +1 combat die, 9 to 10 you get +2 combat die, 11 plus strength you get +3 combat die. And of course, perks are your special bonuses. They give you brand new abilities or bonuses to abilities you already have. And there are loads and loads and loads of them. Character advancement. So as you scavenge and survive in the wasteland, you gain experience points or XP. And when you cross the thresholds listed in this table here, you go all the way up to level 21 on this table. When you get a certain number of XP, you level up, increasing your character's level by 1. And each time you level up, you get 1 additional health point. You choose 1 skill to increase by 1 rank up to a maximum of 6. And you gain a new perk. So most perks have some requirements, so you have to make sure you meet those requirements before you take that perk. Experience points you get for completing milestones in play or defeating enemies. Reaching key destinations or other story beats as well can be used for XP if your GM wants. Defeating or overcoming creatures or NPCs gives out XP in or out of combat. So if you manage to sneak past a group of tough guys, you can still get XP. You can also do milestone progressions, so if you reach a certain milestone, your GM will just tell you, like, you've done a lot of stuff, so go to level 2. And then in that case, the leveling is led by the story rather than by the gameplay. And you can keep going past 21, so they give you a formula for that. You can get a crazy amount of perks, basically, if you keep playing long enough. So there's a character creation summary for the process. So first you decide your origin. So that can be Brotherhood of Steel, a ghoul, super mutant, Mr. Handy, survivor, or a vault dweller. You increase your special attribute, so each attribute starts with a rank of 5, and you spend 5 points across your 7 attributes to increase them to a maximum of 10 each. You reduce any attribute from 5 to 4 to gain an additional point, but you can't go any lower than that. Next, you pick out tag skills, so you choose 3 tag skills, add 2 ranks to each tag skill, then spend 9 plus intelligence points to increase your skill rank. Each skill starts at 0. Then you choose your first perk from the perks list. Then you calculate your derived stats, which is your carry weight and defense, which were on the previous pages. Then you choose a starting equipment, which will be based on your origin. Then you choose a trinket and gain tag skill equipment. So there are different pages for all that stuff. Depending on which origin you chose, you get a different starter pack. You can pick from different trinkets, and there are different tag skill items that you gain as well. Your origin describes your character's background, where you're born, your community, your way of life, and it defines limits on your attributes, and it gives you some traits as well. So if you're a Brotherhood initiate, so you're from the beginning in the Brotherhood of Steel, you get 1 additional tag skill, which must be either energy weapon, science, or repair, and you're bound by the chain of command, the chain that binds. So you must carry out the orders of your immediate superiors. If you don't carry out your duty, you are expelled from the Brotherhood, and your technology will be reclaimed by any means necessary. There you go. If you're a ghoul, you are a necrotic post-human, so you're immune to radiation damage, and in fact you're healed by it, so you gain 1 HP for every 3 points of radiation damage inflicted upon you, and if you rest in an irradiated location, you may re-roll your dice pool when checking if your injuries heal. In addition, survival becomes a tag skill, increasing it by 2 ranks. You age at a much decreased rate, and you're probably older than your unmutated companions. You may even have survived the Great War of 2077, but you're sterile. The first generation of ghouls is the last, as the saying goes. You may face discrimination from smoothskins, increasing the difficulty or complication range of charisma tests. Fair enough, you look disgusting. Super mutants. Look at that guy. He's got cool sunglasses and everything. So he's got the trait Forced Evolution. Your initial strength and endurance attributes are increased by +2 each, and your maximum strength and endurance are increased to 12, but your maximum intelligence and charisma are both reduced to 6. You may not have more than 4 ranks in any skill, but you're completely immune to radiation and poison damage. You stand over 7 feet tall, and your body is bulky and muscular. Now, you do not seem to age, but you are sterile. You can only wear armor which have been made to fit a super mutant. So you can see these non-human classes are pretty cool, but they do have some restrictions to kind of balance them out. And then you have the Mr. Handy robot. Look at these guys. Love those guys. So the General Atomic International Mr. Handy. He has a different hit location table. You can hit him in the optics, which is like hitting him in the head. The main body, which is the sort of circular portion here. You can hit him in one of the 3 arms that he has available, or in the thruster, which is like hitting a human in the leg. He's got some traits as a Mr. Handy robot. He's got 360-degree vision and improved sensory systems. Can detect smells, chemicals, and radiation, reducing the difficulty of perception tests that rely on sight and smell by 1. You're immune to radiation and poison damage, but you can't use chems, nor can you benefit from food, drink, or rest. You move by jet propulsion, so you hover over the ground, and you don't get affected by difficult terrain or obstacles. You can carry 150 pounds, so you can't modify that with strength or perks, but you can have modified armor to increase that. And you can't recover from your own injuries or heal health points without getting repairs from somebody. The other thing is that you should really have a pincer attachment. So you don't have, normal limbs, you have changeable attachments, and you have different arm attachments you can choose from. And as it points out here, you really should get a pincer as one of them, because that allows you to manipulate objects and make unarmed attacks with 2 combat dice physical damage. If you don't have a pincer, then you can't do stuff like picking locks or repair or anything. So you pretty much want to have that. You can also have arm attachments, including a 10mm auto pistol. You can use a buzz saw, so that inflicts 3 combat dice of piercing 1 damage. You can have a flamer, set objects to light, cook food, or make range attacks, or a laser emitter. You can cut objects or make range attacks with a laser gun. So lots of flexibility there. But the flip side of it, of course, is that you can't benefit from any of the normal means of healing. You need repairs done to you to get your HP back. And you need to sacrifice one of your arms for a pincer. Otherwise, you can't really interact with the world beyond shooting at it. Then we have survivors. So these are the people who prepared for Armageddon on their own. And you can choose a trait for this one. So you could be educated, meaning you have 1 additional tag skill, but you also get a penalty. When you fail a skill test using a skill other than the tag skill, the GM gains 1 AP. You can be a fast shot. You can take a second major action in combat and use it to make a range attack. The additional major action only costs you 1 AP in that case rather than 2. But you cannot benefit from the aim minor action because you're too impatient. You can be gifted. Choose 2 special attributes and increase them by +1 each. But the penalty is your maximum number of luck points is 1 fewer than your luck attribute. You can be heavy-handed, increasing your melee bonus damage by +1 combat die. On the flip side, your melee and unarmored attacks suffer a complication on a 19 or 20 rather than only a 20. Finally, you can have a small frame. You can re-roll 1d20 on all agility tests, which rely on balance or contortion, but it also reduces your carry weight. Now, if you're a vault dweller, as we saw with our friend Lucy in the series, you had a healthier start to life because you had trained doctors and auto docs, so you reduce the difficulty of all endurance tests to resist the effect of diseases, 1 additional tag skill of your choice, but also you should work with the GM to determine what sort of experiment took place within your vault. Once per quest, the GM may introduce a complication which reflects the nature of the experiment you unwittingly took part in, or introduce a complication related to your early life of isolation and confinement within the vault. If the GM does this, you immediately regain 1 luck point. With GM's permission, you may choose to have your vault dweller be a ghoul. You gain the necrotic post-human trait instead of the vault kid trait, and you choose one of the vault dweller equipment packs instead of the wastelander one. Again, nice to have the flexibility. So that's your origins. Then we go to step 2. So you got your special attributes. So every attribute starts with 5. Then you will spend your points to increase those attributes. Now, if you want to be really balanced, then you might go 5 6s and 2 5s. If you want to be focused, you might go 8 7 6 6 5 4 4. You can be specialized. So you get 1 attribute up to 9, and the one up to 8. Then the rest are all 5s and 4s. So it's worth spending some time thinking about this. You only get 5 points to spend to increase your attributes, and then you can reduce 5s to 4s to get additional ones if you want to be more focused. Based on your origin, what you see your role in the party to be, what your strengths are as a character, try and focus your attribute array accordingly. And these are a nice kind of guideline. Step 3, then you choose 3 skills to be your tag skills and by skill ranks. Now, note, of course, some of the backgrounds give you additional tag skills. Your tag skills begin at rank 2 and every other skill begins at rank 0, but then you buy ranks in your other skills, a total of points equal to 9 plus your intelligence. During character creation, you can't increase any skill to a rank above 3, unless you're creating a character of level 3 or above. Skills have a maximum rank of 6, and you can never go above that. Then you choose your first perk. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So you have perks that you can take more than once, so they will have ranks. And some perks have requirements as well, like Adamantium Skeleton again. In the description of the perk, it'll tell you if it has multiple ranks, like when you can take it again. Usually there's a level gap before you can take the same perk again. So, for example, if we look at Adamantium Skeleton, it's got 3 ranks. For each rank, when you suffer damage, the amount of damage needed to inflict a critical increases by your rank in this perk. So, if you have 1 rank, you suffer a critical hit from 6 damage instead of 5. Each time you use this perk, the level requirement increases by 3. So if you take it at level 1, then the next time you take it, you have to be level 4 or above. And you need to have an endurance of 7 minimum. And so all the perks are listed in that sort of way. So Action Boy, that's a pretty cool one. If you spend AP to take additional basic action, you don't suffer the increased skill test difficulty during your second action. Animal Friends. You can get Adrenaline Rush, counting your strength score as 10 for all purposes when your health is below its maximum value. You can get better abilities in water, you can get armor building skills, better awareness, you can become a barbarian. Looks like Conan, that's great. So that gives you a physical damage resistance increases. You can be a basher. Using your gun with a melee attack, you gain the vicious damage effect. Better criticals, you can spend 1 luck point to automatically inflict a critical hit as long as you score 1 point of damage or more after damage resistance. You can get big leagues, gives you vicious on 2-handed melee weapon attacks like baseball bats. Blitz means when you move into reach of an opponent and make a melee attack, you can re-roll 1d20. And at rank 2, you also inflict an additional combat die with that attack. The level requirement increases by 3 each time. Then we have blacksmithing. You can modify melee weapons with weapon mods. Bloody mess. Love that thumbs up there. Roll combat die. If you roll an effect, you inflict 1 additional crit to a random location when you inflict a critical hit. Can do gives you 1 additional random food item without spending AP when you scavenge a location. Cap collector, you can increase or decrease the price of goods being traded by 10%. Cautious nature, center of mass, chem resistant. So at rank 1, it's harder to become addicted to chems. At rank 2, you can't become addicted to chems. Chemist, that means your chems last twice as long as normal, and you can unlock chem recipes that have this perk as a requirement. You do things like concentrated fire, you can have a daring nature, you can be a demolition expert, you can be a great dodger. Dogmeat, so this gives you a dog friend. How cool is that? You need to have a charisma of 5 minimum, and there's only 1 rank, and then you get a dog as a companion. He's got a body and mind. So this is one thing about creatures in the game. So rather than having the full special stats, they just have 2 stats, a body and mind, and then they have skills and melee guns or other. So your dog has a body and mind of 5 and 4 respectively, as a skill of 2 in melee, 1 in other, just anything else. 6 hit points. Initiative as a PC, defensive 1, carry 50 pounds. You've got no damage resistance, but you can do a bite, body plus melee, target number 7, and does 2 dice of vicious physical damage. And he's also got keen senses. He can detect creatures or objects, reduce the difficulty of all their perception tests by 1. He's an attack dog. He can assist on your attack, and if he succeeds, then he inflicts his own melee damage on the target as well. And he's a companion, so he levels up whenever you level up. Increase Dogmeat's body or mind by +1 when you reach level 3 or any odd number level after that. Increase Dogmeat's HP by +1 per level, and with any increases to body. Increase Dogmeat's bite damage by +1 damage die at 5th level, and every 5 levels beyond that. So he's a bit fragile, but he sticks by your side. He can help you detect threats. He can boost your melee attacks, and he grows along with you as you adventure through the wasteland. Adorable. You can be an entomologist, so you gain bonuses attacking insects. You have a fast metabolism, so regain more HP from a source other than rest. You can have faster healing. You can be a ghost. You can have gun fu, so spend 1 AP and 1 ammo to hit a second target within close range of your initial target. At rank 2, you can spend 2 AP and 2 ammo to hit 2 additional targets. At rank 3, you can spend 3 AP and 3 ammo to hit 3 additional targets. And each time you take the perk, the level requirement increases by 5. Gun nut. Look at his long tongue drooling over these guns here. Gun nut, you can modify small guns and heavy weapons with mods. Gunslinger gives you increased damage, and you can reroll a hit location die with one-handed ranged weapons. You can be healers, heave ho, which helps you with throwing attacks. You can be an infiltrator, so you can reroll 1d20 on a lockpick skill test. You can be inspirational, you can do intense training, you can jury rig stuff. You can repair an item without needing to expend any components. However, the repair is temporary, and the item will break again on the next complication you suffer while using it. And the complication's range of all skill tests to use it increased by 1. Laser commander means you're better with energy weapons. Lead belly means you can re-roll die to suffer radiation damage from radiated food or drink. And at rank 2, you're immune to radiation damage from food or drink. Master Thief helps you pick locks or pickpockets. Medic can reroll 1d20 when you try to treat an injury. Moving target increases your defense by +1 when you take the sprint action. Nerd Rage, still my favorite. Then you get Night Person, reduce any difficulty increases due to darkness by 1, that'd be me. Ninja, so that helps you sneak attacks. Nuclear Physicist, whenever you use a weapon that inflicts radiation damage or has the radioactive damage effect, each effect you roll inflicts 1 additional point of radiation damage. In addition, fusion cores you use have 3 additional charges. How cool is that? Paralyzing Palm, that's cool. You can strike a specific location with an unarmed attack, gains the stun damage effect. Party Boy Party Girl means that alcoholic drinks are not addictive to you, and you get +2 HP for each one you drink. Pathfinder helps you find your way through the wilderness. Pickpocket, so you can steal objects from people or plant something on them more easily. Piercing Strikes, so your attacks using unarmed attacks and bladed melee weapons gain piercing 1 or add +1 to any piercing X they already had. Pyromaniac, increases your fire damage. Quick Draw, you can draw a weapon without using a minor action. Quick Hands, you can reload firearms faster, and you can spend 2 AP to increase the fire rate of your gun by +2 for an attack. That's pretty awesome. You can be a Refractor, you can be a Rifleman, so a ranged attack with any 2-handed weapon with a fire rate of 2 or lower. You add +1 combat dice to the weapon's damage per rank. At rank 2, you also add piercing 1 or +1 to any piercing X they already had. Be a robotics expert, which helps you modify robot armor, weapon mounts, and modules. Be a scientist, modify energy weapons, and craft certain advanced armor. You can be a scoundrel to ignore complications when you lie to somebody. You can be a shotgun surgeon, so ranged attacks using shotguns gain the piercing 1 damage effect, or +1 to any piercing X they already had. You can be skilled, so there's 10 ranks of this. Add +1 rank to 2 skills, or add +2 ranks to 1 skill, but you can never have more than 6 ranks. Each time you take this perk, the level requirement increases by 1. Got size matters, so this is helping you with heavy weapons. Slayer, there you go. If you inflict any damage with an unarmed attack or melee weapon, you can spend 1 luck point to immediately inflict a critical, and therefore an injury on the location you hit. Be a smooth talker, sniper. If you take an aim action and then make a ranged attack with a 2-handed weapon with the accurate quality, you can specify hit location to target without increasing difficulty. That's pretty awesome. Solar powered, for every hour you spend in direct sunlight, you heal 1 radiation damage. That's handy. Tag, you can select 1 additional tag skill, increase the skill's rank by 2 to a maximum of 6, and make it a tag skill. Toughness, physical DR to all hit locations increased by +1 per rank. Ooh, that's a lot of perks, see? And then we get to our derived stats. So again, we have carry weight is 150 plus strength time 10 pounds. Carry more by choosing relevant perks or increasing your strength. And Mr. Handy robots are different. They carry a maximum of 150, and each pincer can only lift 40 pounds of weight. So not really great carrying stuff. Your base damage resistance is 0, but is increased by the armor you wear or the perks you select. Your defense is either 1 or 2, depending on your agility, as we saw. Initiative is perception plus agility. Health points is endurance plus luck. And melee damage, again, is determined by your strength. And then you choose your equipment. So if you're a Brotherhood origin, you have the choice of Brotherhood Steel Initiate. So you gain Brotherhood Fatigues and Hood, Combat Knife, Laser Pistol, and a Fusion Cell, and Brotherhood Hollow Tags containing identifying information. If you're a Steel Scribe, then you receive a Field Scribe's Armor and Brotherhood Scribe's Hat, a Combat Knife, once again a Laser Pistol or a 10mm pistol but with less ammo, and Brotherhood Hollow Tag. If you're a Mr. Handy, you can be a Miss Nanny. So you get 1 pincer arm, 1 flamer arm, and 1 arm attachment of your choice. Standard plating, behavioral analysis mod, hazard detection mod, and 10 caps. Caps are the currency, by the way, in the nuclear wasteland. You can be a Mr. Farmhand. You were built to work on the farms. You have 1 pincer arm, 1 buzzsaw, and 1 laser emitter. Standard plating, 1 bag of fertilizer, which is an uncommon material. 2 mute fruits, and 25 caps. Or you could be a Mr. Gutsy. So you're a military robot. You get 1 10mm auto pistol arm, 1 buzzsaw arm, and 1 laser emitter arm, Mr. Gutsy plating, recon sensors mod, and 10 caps. Or you can be a domestic Mr. Handy. So you get 1 pincer arm, 1 flamer arm, and 1 buzzsaw, standard plating, robot repair kit, integral boiler mod, and 10 caps. And you can also be a nurse handy. So you get a pincer arm or buzzsaw, 1 buzzsaw in addition to that, and 1 attachment of your choice, standard plating, a stim pack, a diagnosis mod, and 10 caps. Pretty cool. Super mutants, you can be a brute, so you're big and tough. You get raider armor on your torso, plus raider armor for 1 leg or 1 arm, a pipe rifle, and 6 + 3 combat dice rounds of .38 ammunition, a baseball bat or machete, a personal trinket, and 5 caps. If you're a skirmisher, you get the better gear. So you get raider armor torso, raider armor for 1 leg or 1 arm. You get a pipe rifle with more ammo. You get a board, personal trinket, and 5 caps. If you're a Vault Dweller, you could be a Vault Tech resident, so you get a Vault jumpsuit, Vault Tech branded canteen with 1 purified water, a Pip-Boy, a Switchblade, a 10mm pistol, 2 stim packs, and 10 caps. If you're Vault Tech security, you get your jumpsuit, Vault Tech security armor, and Vault Tech helmet, Vault Tech branded canteen with 1 purified water, Pip-Boy, a baton, 10mm pistol with more ammo, and a stim pack. If you're a Wastelander, there's a bunch of different possibilities. You can be a mercenary, so you get tough clothing, a leather armor chest piece, or a leather armor arm, and a leather armor leg. You can get 1 melee weapon from the following: machete, baseball bat, or tire iron. 1 ranged weapon from the following: 10mm auto pistol, 44 caliber pistol, hunting rifle, bolt action pipe gun. Then 10 + 5 combat dice rounds of ammo for the chosen ranged weapon. A note advertising a job at a nearby settlement that offers to pay 50 caps, and you get 15 caps to start with. If you're a raider, you get a harness, raider armor chest piece, and raider armor for 1 of your arms, your choice. 1 melee weapon from lead pipe, pool cue, or tire iron. A pipe gun with 10 + 5 combat dice rounds of ammo. 1 dose of jet or radaway. 1 Molotov cocktail or 1 stim pack, and 15 caps. If you're a settler, tough clothing, 1 melee weapon from switchblade, pipe wrench, rolling pin, or knuckles. A pipe gun with 6 + 3 combat dice rounds. 2 rolls on the random food table. 1 personal trinket, and 45 caps. That's a lot of caps, actually. Trader, you get tough clothing, leather armor chest piece, or leather armor arm and leg pieces, a pipe gun, 1 personal trinket, and some wares. Roll 3 times each on the random ammo table, random chem table, and random oddities and valuables table. You also get a pack of Brahmin, carry your stuff, and 50 caps. You can be a wanderer, so you travel from settlement to settlement. You get a drifter outfit, 1 melee weapon from switchblade, pipe wrench, rolling pin, or knuckles, a pipe gun with 8+4 dice rounds of ammunition, 1 dose of jet or right-away, 1 personal trinket, and 30 caps. And then you have your personal trinkets. Any character may have a trinket if they wish at the GM's discretion, but these cannot restore a character's luck points in the same way. The only ones that restore your luck are the ones that are received as part of your character kit here. If your character begins with a trinket, you can roll on this table for inspiration, or you can create your own if you want, and you can always do that. Tag skill items. So then, depending on which of your skills have a tag attached to them, you can get additional items. So, for example, if your tag skill is big guns, you get 4+2 dice shots of flame refuel. If it's energy weapons, you get a fusion cell with 6+3 dice shots. If it's melee weapons, you get a machete or a baseball bat. If it's pilot, you get some broken car parts. Repair, you get a multi-tool. Small guns, you get 6+3 dice additional shots of ammunition of a type you already possess. And unarmed, you get some knuckles. It's cool. If you're at higher levels, then player characters should receive correspondingly better equipment. For each level above first, your character receives additional caps. Items purchased cannot exceed the rarity listed. So items have a rarity rating that's numerical. Then we get into equipment, and there's loads and loads of it, so we'll try and bomb through this pretty quickly here. So first off, caps are your currency, as we spoke about before. There's other kind of stuff around as well. There's gold. Scrip is like back in the old days, when crappy mining companies would pay you in scrip that was only usable at the company store. So basically you didn't get real money, you just got money that went straight back to them. That's what scrip is. And you use that in the Brotherhood, so it's not great. Availability and rarity. So rarity is used a few ways. Basically, in most cases, it's used as difficulty of a skill test, like when trying to convince a trader to part ways with a rare item or haggling over the price. So that's why the rarity is a numerical figure. So if you're asked to make an availability roll to see if somebody even has something, then roll a number of combat dice equal to your luck, and the number of effects rolled is the maximum rarity available. If you're selling something, rarity doesn't matter. Few traders turn away good merchandise without good reason, but you only receive a quarter of the item's value before adjustments for haggling. Further, each trader only has a finite number of caps on their person to trade with. You can get around that by bartering, but it does limit how much you can sell at once, particularly if you're selling something rare and valuable. So then you can haggle, so you make a charisma plus barter opposed test. If you succeed, then the price becomes 10% more favorable to you. So whichever way that goes, if you're a buyer or seller. If you succeed and spend 2 AP, the price becomes 20% more favorable. If you fail, the price stays the way it was. If you fail and the opponent spends 2 AP, then the price becomes 10% less favorable to you in whichever direction. A complication may mean that the trader you're dealing with may regard you, your goods, or your currency as suspicious, and they make a point here to speed things up by, buying things in bulk. Don't just haggle for every individual thing. You can also find equipment in the wasteland. There are rules for looting and scavenging later in this chapter. Then we go over the encumbrance again, modifying equipment. So there's a lot of different mods you can do to stuff. So to weapons, armor, some clothing, and to robots. So in order to modify things, you need the mod you wish to install, obviously, and the item you want to install it on. You need the proper tools and facilities. Normally it's a workbench. And the proper training, which means you have the right perks, the right level to use that specific mod. So it's a difficulty 1 skill test using int plus whatever skill is listed in the mod's description. It takes an hour to complete, but you can spend 2 AP to have that. If you fail, you've not managed to install the mod. And further, roll 1 combat die, and on an effect, the mod you were trying to install is damaged and you can't use it anymore. So each piece of armor can get 2 mods, a material mod, which changes what it's coded with, a utility mod, which adds extra features. Clothing can only accept a single mod. Range weapons can accept numerous mods, but only 1 mod of each type. You can't benefit from 2 barrel mods on a rifle, for example. A melee weapon can have a single upgrade mod, and a robot can have 1 mod per location except the torso. You can have 1 armor mod on the torso and up to 3 internal mods within the torso. Again, getting a bit detailed here, but that's the way this game works. Resources are scarce, so having rules for trading, bartering, what you can modify, how you can specialize things is really important. Alright, so now we get into weapons, ammunition, and weapon mods. So this stuff at the beginning here we've already seen. They're just putting it for your handy reference. Now some weapons it notes have fire rate of 0, so that means that you can't spend additional shots to boost the damage. But the range, of course, is the most effective range for the weapon. You'll check against the range modification table to see how the difficulty changes. And then we have the list of weapon qualities. So this gives some additional quirks to individual weapons. So accurate means you can take the aim minor action and spend up to 3 AP to add +1 die per AP spent to the attack's damage, but you can't spend ammunition if you do that. Then you get blast. So you select a single zone and make the appropriate skill test to attack with a basic difficulty of 2, adjusted for range as normal. If you succeed, every creature and every other target in that zone suffers the weapon's damage. If you fail, your misplaced attack is less effective. Roll only half the weapon's combat dice to determine the damage inflicted, and ignore the weapon's normal damage effects. Close quarters weapons are easy to use up close, suffer no difficulty increase for being used within reach. Concealed weapons are easier to hide on your person. Debilitating means that the difficulty to treat an injury inflicted by a debilitating weapon increases by 1. Gatling weapons spend ammo at 10 times the normal rate, but that also adds 2 damage dice per 10 shot burst. An inaccurate weapon means you gain no benefit from the aim minor action. If the object is a mine quality, it has to be placed and primed onto a surface. If it's a night vision, then that means ignore any increase in difficulty due to darkness. Parry means that you can use the weapon to parry a melee attack by spending 1 AP to add +1 to your defense against that attack. Recon means when you aim with a recon weapon, you may mark the target you aimed at. The next ally to attack that target may reroll 1d20 on their attack. Reliable, so during each combat encounter, a reliable weapon ignores the first complication you roll on a test to use that weapon. Suppressed, if the enemy is not aware of you when you attack with a suppressed weapon, they do not notice the attack unless they are the target or pass a perception plus survival test with a difficulty of 2. Thrown weapon means you can chuck it. If it's two-handed, then you have to use 2 hands. If you try to do it with just 1 hand, you increase the difficulty by +2. If your weapon is unreliable, then the complication range increases by 1. So those are the main qualities you can have. Basically, there's no reloading action as well, you may have noticed. So it's kind of assumed that in Fallout, characters reload whenever they need to as a natural part of fighting. Different types of ammo, though, are hard to get hold of. When you're scrounging for ammo, some of them can cost quite a bit, like gamma rounds for radiation guns. And the rarity is increasing as we go down. So a mini nuke is rarity 6. So it's going to be really hard to find. You know, you can get really powerful weapons, but obtaining ammunition is another factor. You'll have to pick them up by buying from traders, scavenging them from slain foes, finding caches in the wasteland. The tougher your weapon is, the harder it will be to find ammo. So it kind of balances things out a little bit. Then there's some detail about what each of the different rounds do. Then we have Syringer ammo. These are handcrafted by wasteland chemists. So if you want to fire out some syringes of cool drugs, this is how you can do it. So you can shoot out berserker ammo, bleed out ammo, but you can only have one of these effects at the same time on a single target. It's interesting stuff that can happen in combat there. Then we have the guns themselves. So small guns, we've got already a big variety, as you can see. And small guns include things like combat rifles, Gauss rifles, submachine guns, which intuitively don't necessarily seem like small guns by our standards, but this is the Fallout world we're talking about, where big weapons are real big. And just because a gun is small doesn't mean it might not need 2 hands, like the various types of rifles, for example. And the Syringer is the one that fires the cool drugs that we were talking about just a moment ago. Pipe guns, pipe revolvers are like handcrafted guns that are good at close quarters, but quite unreliable. And then you have some quite sophisticated rifles as well. The Gauss rifle does 10 damage, piercing 1. And then we have complications that might occur if you're operating a small gun. So maybe you lose 1 additional shot of ammunition, the gun jammed, or the shot was a dud, or you reached the end of a clip. The damage rating is reduced by 1, or remove a damage effect. Or maybe your shot ricocheted, so an ally near the target might be hit, or a fuel canister. Pretty cool ideas for small gun complications. And then talks about each of the individual weapons and the type of mods they can accept. So for example, the 44 pistol, you can give it a hardened, powerful advanced receiver, a snub-nosed barrel, a bull barrel, comfort grip, a short scope, reflex sight, recon scope. I mean, they all have different lists of what mods they can accept. So there's a huge amount of options here. And the railway rifle fires railway spikes, and that can be modded a million different ways as well, including a recoil compensating stock, which is useful for a gun like that. And then we have the list of small gun mods. So these are your receiver mods, the effects that they have, the name prefix, the weight increase that it adds, the cost increase, and the perk that you need to use it and apply it to your gun. So you got receiver mods. You've got barrel mods, which do things like increasing range or gaining accuracy, stuff like that. Capacitor mods, so you can gain vicious quality or gain damage. You can have magazine mods, you get large magazines, quick eject mags, stuff like that. Grip mods for comfort or sharpshooter's grip. Stock mods, so you would gain the 2-handed quality but remove inaccurate, for example. Sight mods, you can do stuff like reroll hit location die, gain the accurate quality, increase the range by 1 step, gain night vision, gain accurate and recon, all kinds of cool stuff. Muzzle mods, you can do things like removing the inaccurate trait, increasing the fire rate. You can gain the suppressed quality if you have a suppressor. Bayonet gives you a melee weapon on the end of your gun, which deals 4 dice piercing 1 physical damage. Then we've got our energy weapons. So we've got lasers, laser muskets, laser guns, plasma guns, gamma guns. And these do generally energy damage, but plasma does physical and energy damage, which is cool. And gamma guns do radiation damage, which, as we know, is very annoying. Unless you're a ghoul. Gamma guns also have the blast quality, so they can hit a lot of targets at once and irradiate the hell out of everybody. And they have some sample complications, again, for energy weapons. Wasteful, so lose an additional shot. Maybe it overheated and you suffer 2 dice energy damage to whatever arm is holding the weapon, and the weapon needs to cool down for a round after that. Or you could reduce the damage rating by 1 or remove 1 damage effect from wear and tear. Then again, we have huge lists of the mods that can be accepted by these different energy weapons, and some unique mods for the laser musket, gamma gun mods. Then there's a list of energy weapon mods. We got capacitor mods, we have barrel mods, we have grip mods, stock mod, sight mod, the muzzle mods. We've got stuff like beam splitters. You gain spread, but you gain inaccurate, reduce your fire rate. You have a beam focuser that does the opposite, increase the range by 1 step. So there's some interesting stuff you can do with laser weapons and energy weapons. Now we've got big guns, not as many of those. We've got the Fat Man, which is a breaking, radioactive, and vicious, and it has the blast quality and inaccurate. The Fat Man does 21 damage, by the way. We've got the Flamer, 3 dice of damage, but persistent, burst, and spread. Gatling Laser, 3 damage, burst, piercing 1, fire rate of 6. And we got the Heavy Incinerator, so 5 dice of damage, burst, persistent, spread, and is debilitating as well. The Junk Jet, 6 dice of damage, 2-handed. Minigun, 3 dice of damage, burst, spread, Gatling, and inaccurate, and 2-handed. Missile Launcher, 11 dice of damage, physical damage, long range, blast, and 2-handed. And again, we have similar complications here with the addition of massive recoil. This could be a complication where the fearsome recoil of the weapon is too much for you and you can't move or sprint in the next turn. So the Fat Man is a nuclear catapult that fires a mini nuke. That's why it does 21 dice of damage and radiation damage as well. So each mini nuke is about the size of a football and inflicts massive destruction on the target location. So think of it like a tiny tactical nuke. Flamers are obviously flamethrowers, and they have their own unique mods for fuel, barrel, propellant, and nozzle. So again, you can really get deep into the weeds with this. The Gatling Laser has its own mods as well. The Junk Jet has some mods as well for barrel, stock, sight, and muzzle. The Minigun has its own mods. And the Missile Launcher as well. You can modify the barrel, scope, and muzzle. Then we get melee weapons. These are relatively simpler. They're all going to be either some variation of melee weapon or unarmed, depending on whether they're attachment to your fist or a separate item like a sledgehammer or a bat or a knife or something. A few damage effects for things like knives and swords, and cool stuff like breaking for the super sledgehammer. Yeah, some qualities as well. Some of these need 2 hands, some of them are concealed, some of them can parry. But yeah, a little bit simpler. Melee mods. So we have, again, unique mods for each type of weapon. For melee complications, this is an interesting one. So you could have overextended yourself. So basically you reduce your defense by 1 until your next turn because you kind of overreached. Maybe your weapon got stuck in something like the terrain or the enemy, or the weapon could have wear and tear like with the other types of weapons. So we got sword mods, we got combat knife mods, machete mods, ripper mods. This is a militarized chainsaw. The shish kebab, makeshift flaming sword. You get extra flame jets for that. Switchblade, baseball bats. You can wrap them in chains, make them barbed, spiked, bladed. That's very cool. You can take a simple board and spike it, puncture it, or blade it to increase the damage. Lead pipe mods, pipe wrench mods, pool cue mods. Interesting. Rolling pins, batons, sledgehammers, super sledgehammers. So these are powered to increase the impact force, and they can break the heck out of some armor. You got tire irons, walking canes, boxing gloves, deathclaw gauntlets, knuckles. Power Fist is the reinforced gauntlet. You can see here, basically it kind of adds an additional sort of pneumatic ram to your knuckles. You can get a puncturing or additional heating coils for that. Throwing weapons, you have throwing knives, tomahawks, and javelins. Piercing damage, they are quiet because they're suppressed and they can be thrown, which is handy. If you throw a weapon, a complication could be that you just fumbled it, so you knocked one from your pack, or you lose one, you throw one and then throw 2 by mistake and it goes flying somewhere. You overextended yourself, reducing your defense by 1. We've got explosives. So we've got cool stuff in here, different kinds of grenades, including Nuka grenades. which are radioactive. We have plasma grenades, pulse grenades, which are energy-based. Nuke mines, which again are radioactive. Plasma mines and pulse mines. If you get complication with these, so you can get collateral damage. Another PC or an ally or something is in the zone and takes damage. Could be a dud, and the attack doesn't detonate properly, or, has a partial effect. Oops, you dropped the grenade before you can throw it. Inflicts full damage to you and half damage on everyone else in your current zone. Yikes. And then we have our list of ranged weapons. Then we get to armor. There's different kinds of armor. Clothing, presented as a set that covers the whole body and just has small benefits. You can also wear armor over clothing, so that will increase your armor on top of any benefits from the clothing. Outfits cannot be worn in combination with armor. They're too bulky for that. So you get armor in chunks that cover one location at a time. And headgear is obviously like helmets and masks and stuff that cover your face. So super mutants and robots can only wear special armor. So super mutants can only wear raider armor, which is easily adjusted to fit their form. And robots, they can upgrade their armor using different hull materials, but they can't wear random armor. Your dogs can have armor. How cute is that? You can get a doggy helmet. You get light dog armor, medium dog armor, and heavy dog armor. I would definitely do that if I were to have the Dogmeat perk. Power armor. This is the power armor that we see typical of the Brotherhood of Steel. So we have a list of clothing, outfit, and headgear types here. So it gives you the damage resistances for physical, energy, and radiation for each item and the locations covered. So obviously headgear only covers the head. Outfits cover arms, legs, torso. Some of them cover the head as well if it's a hazmat suit or cage armor or spike armor. And clothing covers arms, leg, and torso, but not head. We have some additional headgear over on this side as well. All different types of cool stuff there. Then we have Ballistic Weave. So this is an armor mod that improves the defensive abilities of some clothing items. So you get +2 physical DR, +2 energy DR for Ballistic Weave. And as you go up in quality, you need a higher armor perk, more caps, but it gives you +1 to each of those two resistances, which is quite useful for just regular ass clothing. Then you get descriptions of all this kind of stuff. Some have additional rules associated with them, like military fatigues lets you reroll a single d20 on a strength or agility based skill test each scene. You get your vault jumpsuits, so you get some mods for those as well that you can wear. Insulated lining for energy damage resistance, treated lining for energy and radiation damage resistance. And again, as you go up, you need armor, and then at the higher end, you need armor and science to put these extra linings in to protect you against radiation. Those are hard resistances to get, so it might be worth the investment if you are worried about that kind of damage. Then you have general armor mods. So you notice a lot of these will increase physical and energy, but do nothing to radiation. In fact, none of these mods for raider armor, leather armor, metal armor, or combat armor do anything to radiation DR. So it is very difficult to get radiation DR. Even synth armor as well. You can get quite decent energy resistance with that. And you do get radiation protection from Vault-Tec security armor. Nothing from Raider armor. You can also modify certain types of armor to become shadowed. So basically it's harder to see you in darkness and makes sneak tests easier. So that's the armor in this section. Leather armor, again, only physical and energy, but you don't need much in the way of skill to mod this stuff. Metal armor, nothing you can do on the radiation side, but you can add to the other types of resistances. Combat armor, so each piece of combat armor other than helmets can accept 2 mods, one of which is a material, the other of which is an upgrade. Combat helmets can only accept a material mod. And synth armor provides excellent protection, especially from energy weapons, but can only be really found within the Commonwealth and other locations where Institute synths travel. We have our Vault-Tec security armor. So, it's kind of useful, but not that great because vaults were heavily controlled environments. So then we have general armor upgrades. So these apply to all types of armor listed above, except for the Vault-Tec security armor, and are listed here to avoid repetition. So any of these types of mods can be applied to any armor you have. So you can add lead lined to different types of armor to increase the radiation protection, but that massively increases the weight. And you need to have armor 4 and science 1 to achieve that. Now power armor, that's a different story. So this is the personal defense technology developed before the Great War, used mostly by the Brotherhood of Steel. It needs a fusion core to power it, and there are different levels. So the T45 is kind of an older and cheaper variant, named the T51, the T60, and the X01, and you can see they have pretty damn high radiation resistance, so you can stomp around in the wasteland quite a bit. The flip side of that, of course, is that getting the armor frame alone is 4,500 caps, so yeah, not easy to get hold of that kind of scratch. So the armor frame is this whole exoskeleton on which you mount everything else. And this gives you lots of perk, so, it helps you with surviving impact, so you don't suffer fall damage. You can actually damage creatures nearby to you when you land from a high jump. You can use the frame strength of 11 instead of your own for all purposes. You have a sealed environment, so you have a breathable atmosphere. You survive underwater in toxic gas or similar conditions. It also have ablative resilience, so when a character in power armor is attacked or otherwise suffers damage, the damage is reduced by the damage resistance, and any remaining damage marks off the armor piece's health points. So if the armor piece would suffer a critical hit or is reduced to 0 HP, then it is damaged, and they don't provide protection anymore, so you then take HP damage. Armor pieces don't regain HP naturally, of course, just like robots, and they have to be restored using repair skills in the same way as robots. Then we also have Raider power armor, so this is makeshift power armor that's made by Raiders, obviously. Much less effective than the power armor. Yeah, this is the Raider armor, so much less health points than the higher end of the, the T series or the X series from the Brotherhood. So here we have the T45 power armor discussed in detail. So the different variant components of each and unique armor mods available for it. T51 armor and its own unique power upgrade mods, and the T60 and its unique mods, and the X01, which is, again, has its own unique mods, and it has a power armor plating mod, which gives you EMP shielding, plus 2 energy damage resistance to all locations. That's pretty cool. Then you have general power armor mods that apply to any type of power armor, so things like rad scrubbers that get rid of radiation from food and drink, sensor arrays targeting HUDs, emergency protocols, medic pumps, so they automatically use stim packs when you get below half of your maximum HP. You can have reactive plates that punch your opponent's back if they hit you. You can have jetpacks, rusty knuckles, giving you persistent damage on your punches, hydraulic bracers, Tesla bracers to shock people with energy damage when you punch them. Then plating mods, so titanium plating, lead plating, which gives you plus 2 radiation damage resistance, prism shielding, explosive shielding to protect you from blast weapons. And we have robot armor installed with a repair skill, and they of course are specified to the hit locations you have on a robot rather than the normal hit locations of a person. So standard plating, you just get 2 physical damage and no energy resistance. Mr. Gutsy, you get 2 physical and energy resistance on all locations. But then you can increase that with these various mods: noxious plates, primal plates, serrated plates, actuated frames, and you're immune to radiation damage anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. And we just have descriptions of those with some additional special rules for some of those different types of plates. Then we have consumables. So these are different types of consumable items, including food. Some items of food and drink are irradiated. So again, you have to roll 1 die when you eat it or drink it. And if you get an effect, you get 1 radiation damage, ignoring any resistances you have. We've got a huge list of what you get when you eat these different foods: the HP healed, any other effects. So baked bloatfly gives you plus 2 radiation resistance. That's handy. Bloodbug steak plus max HP plus 3 until the end of the following scene. Cooked soft shell meat gain plus 1 AP at the start of the next scene. And there's a huge list of different foods here, again, taken straight out of the game. Stingwing fillet, reroll 1d20 on all perception tests until the end of the next scene. Vegetable soup, plus 2 radiation damage resistance until the next scene. Wow. And they actually go through and describe all of these as well, which is amazing. And some special rules for some of them as well. Squirrely stew. Then we got some beverages as well. So some of them heal HP. Nuka-Cola Quantum heals 10 HP and gives you plus 5 AP, but it is irradiated and costs 50 caps. Wow. You got a whole variety of different types of drinks here. Brahmin milk is really helpful because it heals 2 radiation damage. Glowing blood pack will give you plus 5 to radiation damage. And refreshing beverage will heal 10 radiation damage and cure all addictions. I mean, how good is that? So some of these beverages are very expensive, caps wise, but if you can scrounge them up, or milk a Brahmin at least, you can help protect yourself from the nasties of radiation. So then we describe all of these things in detail. Nuka-Cola addiction, not something they worry about for PCs. Then you have chems, so these are all the different drugs you can use. Addictol removes all addictions. Antibiotics cures all illnesses. Berry Mentats reduce difficulty of int test by 2. Calm X benefits to sneak attacks. Daddy-O reduce the difficulty of all perception and intelligence test by 1, plus 1 to charisma tests. Fury, you get more physical damage. Healing Salve gets you additional HP. Med-X, physical damage resistance. Orange Mentats, reduce difficulty perception test by 2. Overdrive, reroll damage and +3 damage to attacks. Psychotats, Rad-X gets you +6 radiation damage resistance. It's lasting, which is pretty cool. Rad-X Diluted gets you +3. Stimpaks, including diluted ones, and Super Stimpak. Regular Stimpak is 4 HP, healed. Diluted Stimpak is 2. Super Stimpak is 8. Stimpak Diffuser will heal 4 HP to everybody in close range. The X Cell gives you the first D20 bought on all tests is free, and that's lasting. How good is that? But they are addictive as well. So there's a whole mechanic in the game about addiction, which I won't go into, but you can get away from that if you pick the right perks as well. So there's lots of special rules to deal with these different chems, which we'll just skip past because it's more fun to find these things and try them and see what the hell happens to you. I think that's more enjoyable. You can also read books and magazines. So these are pre-war publications, give you a temporary perk, which is kind of cool. When you find a publication, when you're looting or when you're trading with somebody, you roll to determine which publication it is, which is on here. Depending on which publication it is, you roll in these tables and you get a little temporary perk, which is kind of funky. So if you read Astoundingly Awesome Tales, for example, depending on which issue you'll get some bonuses by being inspired by this literature. Backwoodsman will give you, bonuses to like scavenging or cooking meat and stuff. Grognak the Barbarian will give you benefits to melee attacks, help you fight against ghouls and stuff. Guns and Bullets magazine will give you better attacks with ranged weapons and better aiming and stuff like that. Live and Love gives you benefits to social checks. Just all the details of the game, and stuff that you can find. I mean, there's so much in here that just adds to the atmosphere of this game, which is really great. True Police Stories, we got Unstoppables, the comic book, which gives you some luck, or allows you to spend luck to get rid of damage. Covert Operations Manual, which gives you some benefits. So these are sort of instructionary manuals by the Department of the Army. Wasteland Survival Guide, issue The Bright Side of Radiation Poisoning. Okay. And then there's miscellaneous items, everything from Pack Brahmin, so these are mutant cows, Pip-Boys, which do loads of stuff, holotape players, all that kind of thing. Pip-Boys, typical Pip-Boy will have a report on current health and well-being and any medical problems, ongoing log of the wearer's activities, journey, and condition. You can make personal recordings and text or audio. You have an inbuilt holotape reader. You can also use it as a compass, a radio, a Geiger counter, and a flashlight. And it also gives you the VAT system, so you don't get the difficulty increase for targeting a specific location on the enemy. So it's a big benefit of having a Pip-Boy. When you get those hit locations ripped off. Then we have robot modules. So these are additional mods that can be installed internally. So behavioral analysis does things like reduce the difficulty of speech tests, diagnosis, reduce the difficulty of medicine tests, hacking, reduce the difficulty of science tests, to hack into lock computer systems. The integral boilers I mentioned, so once per scene out of combat, turn 2 dirty waters into 1 purified water in 10 minutes. Radiation coils, so that's pretty cool. You can bust out 3 dice of radiation damage at the end of your turn to everybody within reach. Tesla coils give you 4 dice of piercing 1 stun energy damage at the end of the robot's turn. So lots of interesting stuff you can do with your robot mods. There's Mr. Handy doing it all. He's carrying the shopping, he's walking a billion dogs. Man's best friend reinvented. There you go. And now we have survival, so staying alive, scavenging, and crafting. So a lot of this is just tables, so we won't go too much into it. But yeah, so fatigue is the sort of cumulative effect of being deprived of food, water, sleep, disease, all that kind of stuff. So whenever you have fatigue, it's harder to generate action points and you lose health points. So whenever you gain action points, you reduce the amount you would gain by 1 for each point of fatigue you have to a minimum of 0. Whenever you begin a scene with fatigue, you lose 1 HP for every 2 fatigue you have. This is not reduced by damage resistance. You remove 1 point of fatigue at the end of any non-combat scene if you're free from all sources of fatigue. Basically, they're presented here as kind of a way to make sure that Wasteland survival is important and appropriately brutal, but they're not required. It depends on what kind of campaign you're doing. So they have like a table of different states of hunger. You start at full, and then you get down to sated if you haven't eaten for a while. You get peckish if you haven't eaten for 8 hours. You become hungry. Then after 16 hours of being hungry, you gain 1 fatigue and become starving. For every day you're starving, you gain 1 more fatigue. Same thing going on with thirst. You start with quenched, then down to hydrated, then thirsty, then dehydrated. Sleep. So you start at rested, go down to tired, then weary, then exhausted. And again, you got fatigue from that. Exposure as well can cause problems. So severe heat and severe cold can both cause fatigue. So if you're in cold, the time taken to go from one hunger state to the next is halved because your body requires more energy to keep your body temperature going. And you can have diseases as well. It's all kinds of interesting diseases. Bloodworms, bone worms, if you get radworms, you get +2 radiation damage every time you suffer radiation damage. You can get these from all kinds of stuff, like you get infected by a horrible creature, you drank disgusting water, you ate raw meat, you breathed in bad fumes, you were within reach of somebody with a contagious disease, you slept on the ground instead of in a proper bed or tent or something. So if you get one of these, then events occurring, then you must attempt an endurance plus survival test with a difficulty equal to the number of the listed events which occurred to a maximum of 5. If you fail, you have contracted a disease, and then you roll on here and see what you get. So once you start suffering the effects of the disease, you may attempt an endurance plus survival test with a difficulty equal to the disease duration rating. If you succeed, the duration rating is reduced by 1. If this would reduce it to 0, then you recover from the disease fully. You can also get assistance if somebody's providing you medical care. Taking antibiotics reduces the duration rating of a disease by 1 automatically at the end of the current day for each dose, but only 1 dose per day. If you spend the entire day resting, you reduce the difficulty of your test by 1 to a minimum of 0. Alright, then we have scavenging. So this is the process of searching through something to look for useful stuff. When you begin scavenging, the GM details the location. They might use tools in the Game Master's kit to randomly generate scavenging location, and each location will have a category, level, scale, degree, a list of item categories, and some other details like potential obstacles, hazards, or occupants. So scavenging scenes are all about you trying to gather stuff. You know, if you find a place and it's already been picked over, it's been heavily searched, the difficulty to find anything will be higher than if it's been untouched. You know, you'll need to take more time as well if it's been heavily searched to find anything useful. You can use AP to get additional rolls in your scavenging, and if you're scavenging as a group, you can easily resolve it as a group test. Typically, the one with the best perception plus survival will roll, and then everyone else will assist. Complications might mean you have fewer supplies than you suspect, or the new location is not really worth searching again for a while. The location's inhabitants interrupt you, so you might have to hide from them or talk your way out of things or fight them. You trigger a location hazard, or you can find that one of the items you want is locked away, so you need to pass an additional test. Inhabitants can be a problem, so if you have a big enough place, then you might have a number of inhabitants potentially. If you choose to enter an area openly to scavenge, then the inhabitants will see you coming. Most inhabitants are hostile or at least wary, so be prepared for that. If you enter stealthily, then you roll agility plus sneak opposed by their perception plus survival. Each additional character trying to sneak in increases the difficulty by +1, and the inhabitants may receive assistance from each NPC after the first keeping watch. You know, if you fail, then they notice you straight away. If you succeed, you can enter and search, but a complication will alert the inhabitants that you're in here. Then we've got different types of inhabitants. You could have animals, you could have feral ghouls, you could have raiders, super mutants. They could be old military or security robots as well. You can have obstacles, so, mechanical locks might be in your way to protect particularly useful things. So you need to do perception plus lockpick. There could be electronic locks, which will need intelligence plus science, or there could be partially collapsed structure, so you'll need to do like strength or agility plus athletics, or perception plus survival, different types of things. Or there could be hazards as well. Ongoing hazards will give you a small amount of damage constantly, so this could be like radiative swamps or stuff like that. Occasional hazards only inflict damage in special circumstances. Then we've got a million loot tables. So there are different categories of items, a whole bunch of them here. Successful search yields a minimum number of items of some of these categories, and each item is determined by rolling on the tables below. So you roll 2d20, and you'll get the ammo listed from that roll. Likewise, if it's an armor table that you can roll on, random clothing, food, beverages, you can get these. If it's a Nuka-Cola machine, then you roll on this table instead. Chems, range weapons, you can find these randomly, and melee weapons as well. Weapons thrown and explosive, so these often have random numbers if they're things like grenades, same as ammunition. And then random oddities and valuables. You can find caps or diagnosis mods, Geiger counters, stealth fields, recon sensors, cool stuff. And some more random oddities and valuables on the other page. So that's a 3d20 roll, that one, big table. Then you have junk. So junk items When you find junk while scavenging, roll 2d20. That's the quantity of junk you scavenge. They have weight of 2 and are worth 2 caps each in trade. Salvaging items take 10 minutes per item being salvaged. It requires an int plus repair test with a difficulty of 0. Roll 1 dice for each junk item salvaged. You receive common materials equal to the total rolled. You may roll plus 1 die for each AP spent after succeeding on this test, as you salvage more efficiently and secure more materials. If you have the Scrapper perk, you also receive uncommon material. If you have 2 ranks, you'll get 1 rare material for every 2 effects rolled. Consumable items cannot be salvaged. You can't salvage ammunition. That also makes sense. The means to do so requires tools that are nearly impossible to find in the wasteland. Then they give you an example of common, uncommon, and rare materials that you can find from your junk. And then we have crafting. So again, there are different types of workbench stations: armor, chemistry, cooking, power armor, robot, and weapons workbenches. And all of these having different perks associated with them. And then you can use these workbenches to modify and craft things. So you can learn recipes for crafting items. Common recipes are known to everybody. Uncommon recipes are learned by purchasing certain perks. Rare recipes can only be learned from a specific person or finding a copy of the recipe. Making repairs. So if you need to repair something, you need the right workbench and you need some materials. And the materials you need become harder to get as the item rarity goes up. That makes sense. And then we have some recipes listed. So complex recipes, depending on complexity, you'll have a lot of materials might require, including rare stuff. And so then they give you the different complexities for the different types of items crafted for each type of workbench here. So armor, huge list of stuff here. Obviously, really good armor that you want to craft will require high complexity and lots of materials. And with chemistry, if you want to make all those cool rat-away packs and all that stuff, then you'll need to have these recipes and craft them at the appropriate complexity. Same for syringer ammunition. Cooking station, so you can make all those neat beverages and foods that we saw before. Iguana on a stick and all that. Zap that thirst, Nuka-Cola. Very cool. There's a power armor station specifically for working with power armor because it is very specialized. Note the high complexity of really building any of this stuff. Yeah, and it goes on here. The complexity really bottoms out at 3 for the most basic, like bits of plating. Everything else is pretty much 4 and above. Robot workbench is also, complexity is low for basic stuff, like basic plates, but toxic plate or voltaic frames, hydraulic frames, those are complexity 4 and 5. Robot mods are all 5 and 4 complexity. If you want to build them. Weapons workbench, so small guns, receiver mods, barrel mods, grip mods, magazine mods, stock mods, sights and muzzles. You can build all that stuff. You can build energy weapon mods. You can build big gun mods, junk jet mods, melee weapon mods, and your melee weapon mods. So yeah, they're the whole crafting, scavenging stuff. You can go nuts with that if you really want to. And now we get into the background stuff. Again, I'm going to kind of skip through most of this because, I think we're getting into spoiler territory. And there's lots of quest seeds and stuff in here that relate to these different corporations like Nuka-Cola and such. They've existed before the war, so... But you can see that there's some nice little hooks and adventure seeds, reasons you might want to visit the headquarters of these places, how they can fit into your game in some way, like West Tech and the Institute, all that kind of stuff. I've got a whole section on Vault Tech because of their importance to the lore. So, of course, we know all about the vaults if you played the game or watched the series, but I'm going to skip this just in case you haven't seen either of those. Rest assured, Vault Tech, they built big vaults in the ground to survive nuclear war, and there's more to it than that. And yeah, so there's encounter tables for the vaults, interesting vault plots you can have, raiders, side quests, plot seeds, all kinds of cool stuff. And then we have the Commonwealth, which is the surface world, which the game is primarily focused around. So we've got a bit of history there, some key locations, since the Great War in 2077, the involvement of different key locations like Vault 111, Abernathy Farm, some more locations, the Museum of Freedom, some interesting little quest ideas, the North Central Commonwealth, Western Commonwealth, and this is around Boston area, the Coastal Commonwealth, so this is close to the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have the Museum of Witchcraft, interesting, Boston Airport, now a dangerous and abandoned site populated largely by feral ghouls and mirelurks. Great. We got Natick and the Glowing Sea. So, direct impact of a nuclear weapon during the Great War. Under the perpetual haze of a radiated mist. Yikes. We got Quincy and Southern Commonwealth. Got the Milton's General Hospital, Jamaica Plain. Loads of locations detailed here. I mean, basically infinite ideas for adventures, particularly if you're familiar with the games and some of the stuff laid out there. And there's some really nice sort of plot generator tools in the GM toolkit as well, which I'll show in a separate video when we look at some of the rules supplement stuff. So again, many more interesting locations with history, you know, people involved, detective agencies even, Diamond City Radio, some more quests, and Boston Public Library, Boston Common. I mean, the city is a mess, obviously. And there's, you know, little vaults scattered around. Boston Harbor, I mean, look at that. It's a real shithole, to be frank. Generic Commonwealth locations. This is useful as well. So bunkers, caves, diners, factories, farms, junkyards, radio towers. These are all places that you could stumble into. Ruins, settlements, sewers. You know, they could have interesting supplies or encounters. There's nice encounter tables as well. Some general Commonwealth plots you could build on. And then we got game mastering tips. So managing the rules, working out difficulties for situations, dealing with complication range, difficulty 0 tests, succeeding at a cost and when to use it, using your action points and how to generate more of them. So here we have our Game Master action point spends. Basically, they're the same during combat as a player. Then talk about opposed tests with NPCs, safety and consent. So, I mean, this can be useful. I think Fallout has a kind of tongue-in-cheek flavor to it, but it is very violent, and some people don't like thinking about the apocalypse and crazy irradiated ghouls and eating irradiated food, I guess. So you want to make sure that everybody's expectations are in line with what you plan to deliver for your game as a GM. And so they go over the basics of safety and consent and recommended safety tools like session zeros and content warnings, the X card, all that kind of stuff. And they talk about the daily life experience in Fallout, life in the vaults, the fact that choices should matter, like your character should impact the fiction and impact the world. Dark humor, as I was just saying, there is a lot of satire and hilarity in Fallout, even though it's quite dark in tone. They give some great tips about quest design. So they could be about killing something, fetching something, speaking with someone, achieving tasks, you know, your ways of receiving quests, picking up quests on the road, just doing stuff, and then having a twist happen, throwing a big decision into a quest to make it more exciting, giving out rewards for quests, so you can give out caps, XP, gear, reputation. So minor quests are like 1 or 2 sessions each. Major quests are 3 to 5 game sessions each, and then they give you a guide to your XP rewards for major and minor quests for each level. Certain challenges, if you beat high difficulty skill test, then you can get an XP reward for that as well. That's kind of cool. Then we have our Bestiary. So first we have NPCs. We've got different types. So normal NPCs are the default. Mighty creatures are more potent and more dangerous, so they tend to be encountered as leaders in a group. Legendary are strange mutated versions, rare and much more potent. Notables are significant individuals, so they're often leaders of groups of survivors or raiders, tend to have better skills and better gear. Major characters are the most important and influential people in the wasteland, so they could even control whole factions. NPCs will often have keywords to denote something special about them, like they're a ghoul, super mutant, whatever. So NPC reactions, they could be allies if they're friendly and try to help you. If they're enemies, they'll be hostile and seek to hinder or hurt you. Bystanders don't really care about you, but you can turn them potentially into allies or enemies depending on your actions. XP that you get from NPCs is determined by their level and their type. Other rewards, you can also get items, like they might be carrying ammo. Animal NPCs, you can get meat and stuff to use in your cooking station. If the NPC is rich, you might get some caps. You might get some chems and consumables that the NPC didn't use. You might get some junk, and you might have salvage if you've got, like, if you're fighting a robot or something like that. Grouped NPCs can also be sort of bunged together into like a minion group of sorts, which is handy. And then we talk about creatures. So the key thing about creatures is that, again, they don't have special attributes. They just have body and mind attributes. Instead of having different numbers for strength, endurance, or agility, they just use body for all those. And instead of having perception, charisma, or intelligence, they just use mind. And creatures have 3 skills: melee, guns, and other. It's nice. It makes creatures very easy to run. Defense is the difficulty for attacks made against the creature. They have initiative score, HP score, damage resistances, and then their attacks, any special abilities, and their inventory. Characters, they function just like player character, basically. They have special attributes, they have level and type, keywords, they have skills. A normal character will have 2 tag skills, notable characters will have 3, a major character will have 4 tag skills. Notable characters get +2 to their initiative, majors get +4. Notable characters has additional HP equal to their luck, and a major character has additional HP equal to twice their luck. And then we have rules for followers and companions, attacks, special attacks, and leveling up NPCs. And that's quite handy because as your player character gets stronger, you might want them to still run into interesting irradiated creatures, but you do want them to be a challenge still and not be just a waste of time. So blood bugs are super big and gross, kind of giant mutated mosquito. They can fly, they're immune to radiation, and you can butcher them for a useful meal. You got the bloat fly. Again, a giant nuclear blowfly. They can shoot you with a larvae dart, which causes a bloatfly to burst out of you after you die. They can fly, they're little, they're immune to radiation, and you can butcher them for gross meat. There's a Brahmin, a two-headed cow. They're only level 3. They can headbutt you for 4 physical damage. They're immune to radiation because they've already been irradiated. Brahmin milk is useful, remember, to heal your radiation damage. And if you butcher a Brahmin, you can get Brahmin meat and 2 uncommon materials. Deathclaw is another iconic enemy of the Fallout series. They're giant mutated lizards. They've got high body of 9, mind of 5, melee of 5. But they've got really tough melee attacks. 6 dice piercing physical damage claws, 4 dice stun physical damage slam, 4 dice stun physical damage heavy object throwing. They're immune to radiation. They're big, so they have additional health but less defense. They only suffer a critical hit if an attack inflicts 7+ damage after damage resistance rather than the normal 5+. They have keen senses. They have the rend quality, which can make a deadly or a claw attack by increasing the difficulty by 1. They have a weak spot in the torso. If the attacker chooses to target it, they will ignore the creature's DR. So yeah, pretty tough. We've got mutated dogs. Poor things. Look at this poor bastard. They're at level 3, normal creature. Just got a 4 dice physical bite, keen senses, and butchery. Poor things. I love dogs too much. Makes me sad. Mirelurks are mutated crustaceans. So they're big ass crabs. You got hatchlings. So they are tiny, well, little in rules terms, but they can still do 3 dice physical damage with their pincers. Can swim indefinitely, and a dead hatchling will give you some Mirelurk meat. At full size, level 7, so they look like horseshoe crabs according to this. They are much more severe than the hatchlings. They got pincers, which do double damage, 6 dice physical damage. They're immune to radiation. They got a small weak point, and they're aquatic, but you can butcher them for Mirelurk meat. Mirelurk hunters are more like lobsters, so they've got big pincers with 9 physical dice damage. Again, immune to radiation, small weak point, aquatic, and butchery. We've got a Mirelurk Queen. Disgusting. Level 19, and it's huge. They stand taller than any other Mirelurk subspecies, with some reaching the gigantic height of a behemoth. And they're very aggressive as well. Of course they are. And they have pincers, which do 12 dice vicious physical damage, and acid spray, which does 10 dice piercing radioactive poison damage. Yikes. That is not cool at all. Loads of special abilities. They can spawn hatchlings. They're immune to radiation. They're immune to fear. Got a small weak point. They're aquatic and can stay submerged indefinitely. They're big, so they get more health but less defense. And crit only on a 7+ rather than a 5+. They're aggressive, so as soon as they enter a scene, they get 1 action point. So once you kill them, you can find several items among its body and in its lair. Plus, you can do some butchery as well. Got mole rats, so they can bite. They can burrow under the ground, and they can surprise you when emerging. Get an extra damage dice on its bite for 1 AP. They're immune to radiation, of course, living in the wasteland as they do. The mutant hound. So these are mutant dogs. So these were created through exposure to the forced evolutionary virus. So they're not natural creations. They have a bite for 3 dice physical damage, immune to radiation, immune to poison, keen senses, and a warning howl. So each super mutant or mutant hound within long range can make a second minor action on the next turn if they hear the warning howl. And you can also butcher them, get stuff. Rad roaches, gigantic cockroaches, they're really gross. They do very basic bite, 1 die radioactive damage. They're immune to radiation, immune to poison, and little. They're also sneaky. Rad scorpions are terrifying, so they are gigantic emperor scorpions. They have vicious claw attacks at 4 dice, and persistent poison stingers at 3 dice. They're immune to radiation, immune to poison, and they're big. They can burrow like the mole rat. 2 zones is a major action. It only takes a minor action to emerge from the ground after burrowing. And they have a small weak spot in the head. But yeah, don't mess with those guys. Super gross. We've got the rad stag, 2-headed stag. Mutated descendants of the common deer. They do 5 dice piercing physical damage with their antlers. No special abilities. We've got the stingwing, mutated insects, variants of the pre-war scorpion fly. Gross. They have a barbed stinger that does 2 dice persistent poison physical damage. They're immune to radiation, immune to poison. They're tiny, they fly, and they can dive bomb. Alright. Butchering them can get you a stingwing barb. We have the Yao Guai. So this is a mutated bear. Yeah, cool. So they have vicious 9 dice claw attack and a piercing 10 dice bite attack. They're immune to radiation. They're big, of course, aggressive, and you can butcher them if you manage to survive to get Yaogwai meat. Then we got our mutated humanoids. So ghouls, feral ghouls, they've basically degraded. So they've lost the ability to understand speech and don't have any higher thinking, really. They don't attack other ghouls generally, but they will attack everything else on sight. They do radioactive physical damage at 3 dice using unarmed attacks, but they're immune to radiation and immune to poison. They're feral, so they can't be persuaded or influenced, healed by radiation because they're ghouls, and they can play dead to ambush unsuspecting passersby. You can find junk on their bodies, which can be salvaged as normal. Glowing ghouls is when a feral ghoul absorbs radiation in extreme excess. They glow a deep green color and emit heavy radiation even after death. Oof. So they do 7 dice radioactive physical damage on an unarmed attack. Once per combat, they can unleash a pulse of radiation, inflicting 5 dice radiation damage to everything within range C. If it inflicts 3 or more damage, then any defeated ghoul within that range is restored to 1 HP and returns to the fight. My god. They're also glowing. They create a strange luminescence, and they inflict 2 dice radiation damage to anyone within reach. Any melee attacks it makes gain the radioactive damage effect. If it already had this damage effect, it instead inflicts 2 radiation damage per effect rolled. Yikes. Of course, they're immune to radiation and poison. They're feral. They're ghouls, and they can play dead, and they can be salvaged for junk. We have the Assaultron, which is a level 13 attack robot. It's got a 9 dice physical unarmed melee attack, a 9 dice laser vicious energy damage attack, range L. It can self-destruct for 6 dice physical damage and blast. Wow. It's also got the robot special ability, so they're immune to starvation, thirst, suffocation, poison, radiation. Immune to poison, immune to radiation, immune to disease, keen senses, self-destruct, night vision, and you can salvage from them, which you get to fusion cells, which is cool. But iBots, so these are kind of spy drones, if you like, but they do have a laser as well for 4 dice energy damage, range M. Once again, they have the robot bonuses and malices, and they can send radio transmissions and play them aloud, and you can salvage from them to get some common or uncommon materials. And it doesn't say so, but they must be flying, I assume. Mr. Handy has the pincer, buzzsaw, and flamer attachments in this case. Pincer is just a simple 2 dice melee attack. Buzzsaw is 3 piercing physical. Flamer is 3 persistent energy damage, fire rate 1. And they have the robot trait and the Mr. Handy trait, which gives them 360-degree vision and better sensory systems, as we saw. Mr. Gutsy as well. So this is the kind of combat variant of the Mr. Handy. They've got a pincer auto pistol, which is 5 dice physical damage, range C, fire rate 4, close quarters, reliable, and burst. And they got the flamer as well, plus the typical traits and an additional Mr. Gutsy trait. So they gain 1 dice damage and have Mr. Gutsy plating on as standard armor. Additionally, if a character attempts a speech test, question, reason with, or give Mr. Gutsy orders, the difficulty of the test increases by 2 if the character is not in military uniform. Got the Protectron, another Robco Industries robot. It does claws, 3 physical damage, arm lasers, 3 burst, piercing 1 energy damage. So if both of its arms are injured, it can no longer attack with its arm lasers. And if one of its arms suffers an injury, the fire rate of their lasers decreases to 2 from 4. Once per combat, they can let rip with their arm lasers. This adds the weapon's fire rate of 4 to the weapon's damage for a single attack for 7 dice total, and allows them to use the burst damage effect without spending ammo. And they can self-destruct. They have different personalities as well, which give them a little variation. We have a giant sentry robot, level 15 monstrosity. It's got a chain gun, 5 dice physical damage, burst spread, fire rate 5, Gatling, range M. Unarmed is 8 dice vicious physical damage. Missile launcher, 11 dice physical damage, blast, range L. Self-destruct, 6 dice physical damage, and blast. It's got all the robot stuff. It's big as well. Keen senses, aggressive, so don't mess with those dudes. We've got super mutants, so we've got the basic super mutant here. Gets a lot of melee bonus because he's strong. Tag skills and survival and melee, of course. Fists for 4 dice physical damage. Can eat with his board for 6 dice physical damage. And he's got a pipe bolt action rifle. Plus 2 to physical and energy damage because he's barbarian, immune to radiation, immune to poison. Super mutant behemoth, my god, level 18. He's got a fire hydrant bat. 11 dice vicious breaking physical damage, and he can throw boulders, 8 dice vicious stun physical damage, throwing range M. and he's immune to fear as well as radiation, plus he's big, plus he's aggressive. We got a Super Mutant Brute, level 7, so they have tag skills in melee and small guns. Got an arm strike for 4 dice, a board for 6 dice, and a pipe bolt action rifle, which again, 5 dice piercing physical damage. Super Mutant Master. He's got tag skills in big guns, melee weapons, and survival, plus 2 melee bonus. Arm strike is 4 dice, minigun, and got 3 dice physical damage, burst spread, fire rate 5, range M, Gatling, inaccurate, and two-handed, or a missile launcher. 11 dice physical damage, range L, blast, and two-handed. Plus he's got Barbarian, immune to radiation, immune to poison. Super Mutant Suicider. Interesting. So they have a modified mini nuke. So once in close range of his target, makes an agility plus explosive test to detonate the mini nuke. Anyone within close range of the Super Mutant Suicider, including itself, suffers its effects. Oh god. And it's got, modified mini nuke. There we go. 21 dice physical damage, breaking, radioactive, vicious, blast, range C. Otherwise, they're pretty similar to the other Super Mutants. Got synths, 3rd generation synths. You can basically upgrade the synth stats as listed here to create a 3rd generation synth and give them this additional rule so they can pass as human, and it's really hard to tell that they're not human. But the basic older synths are not such. They have Institute Lasers for vicious energy damage and shock batons for close range energy damage. And they have the usual robot bonuses, plus they are immune to fear and immune to disease. Synth Courser. So these are 3rd generation, hard to tell from humans, and they have the same stats as humans. They've got an Institute Laser and an Arm Strike, and they're also immune to fear, immune to disease. They've got Institute Access. We have Synth Striders, so they have, again, the Laser and Shock Baton. These guys are similar to ordinary synths, don't have the same sentience as the 3rd generation, but are found protecting Institute assets and locations. Immune to radiation, immune to fear, immune to disease. So level 16 troopers. Wow. They've got the basic soldier model for the Institute. They're 2nd generation as well. They've got some turrets. These are automated security. Machine gun turret Mark 1 fires a machine gun. Burst fire rate 3. Machine gun turret Mark 3 gets 7 dice of damage. Burst fire rate 3. Machine gun turret Mark 5, 9 damage. Burst fire rate 3. Machine gun turret wall mount, 5 dice, range M, burst fire rate 3. Okay. Machine gun turret 3 shot wall mount. Laser turret wall mount. 4 dice piercing energy damage. Laser 3 shot. Yep. And then we have some Brotherhood of Steel guys. We've got an Elder, so he's not in a giant suit of death, but he does have an unarmed strike and a long laser rifle. And he's pretty tough as well. He's got decent, at least he's got some melee bonus, but he's got the Chain That Binds ability common to the Brotherhood of Steel. The Knight, he has a long laser rifle, unarmed strike, well equipped, can let rip with a volley from their long laser rifle. I'm a Paladin, so these guys have the power armor, so that's a problem. Yep, you got huge DRs there for everything. They got unarmed strike of 5 dice, improved long laser rifle, 6 dice piercing 1 energy damage, fire rate 2, plus all the power armor stuff. They get a strength of 11, can't be damaged by falling, plus they've got the Chain That Binds and well equipped. Scribes, they have pre-war expertise. They're good at using pre-war technology, which is one of the missions of the Brotherhood. And they've got an unarmed strike and just a small laser pistol. So they're more about science and finding tech than fighting. The Lancer is a vertibird pilot, but they can also fire a long laser rifle, and they get a bonus D20 when making tests to pilot vertibird. Got our common raiders, so they can let rip with their pipe gun. Which seems risky given their unreliability, but there you go. The Raider boss got a skull on his shoulder, very Warhammer of him. So he's got tag skills in big guns, explosives, melee weapons, and small guns. So pretty much just a fighty guy. Got frag grenades, hunting rifle, and he's aggressive and action-packed. He begins with a personal pool of 4 action points. Oh, cool. Raider Psycho. Oh my god. He's got machete, double-barreled shotgun, Molotov cocktail, chems or kaboom. He's got either 1 Molotov cocktail or 1 dose of psycho. A Raider Scaver, so they're battle-hardened, sturdier armor, and aggressive nature. They have an unarmed strike, a machete, a combat shotgun. Okay, with spread. And it's aggressive. Generates 1 AP on entering the scene. Raider Veterans. They've got unarmed strike, machete, combat rifle, Molotov cocktail. They can order a Raider of lower level within close range to immediately perform minor action. But they can spend a major action to order another Raider to take a major action immediately. And they can also let rip. They've got General Wastelanders, Children of Adam. So these are people that worship radioactive sites, and they seem to suffer decreased effects to radiation, with some living near sources 100 times the safe limit without suffering a sickness or ghoulification. Interesting. They have gamma guns, so that sucks if you're not resistant to radiation. Gunners, they instead carry laser guns and combat rifles, and they can let rip. Mercenaries, they have combat rifles, double-barreled shotguns, and Molotov cocktails, and let rip ability. So any NPC character can be made into a ghoul using these rules here. Replace the human keyword with ghoul, add the immune to radiation, add the following special ability where ghouls are healed by radiation, 1 HP per 3 points of radiation damage. We got the Minuteman, once a prominent faction throughout the Commonwealth, but not so much anymore. Got an unarmed strike and a laser musket. We've got Railroad Agents, unarmed strike, hunting rifle, and Railroad Agent. Gains a bonus D20 in any speech test with Deception. Institute Scientists, they have Institute Laser and a lab coat. You can reroll a single D20 on one int-based skill check you make in a scene. Traders, they just have a small pistol, shotgun, Molotov cocktail possibly. They can let it rip. Master Traders, making an opposed test with Barter, they get an automatic success. And they have a Pack Brahmin and 6d20 caps on their person for trade. Vault Dweller NPCs, they get the Vault Kid trait, Educated and Gifted. And they come with a 10mm pistol. Wastelanders, looks pretty pathetic there. Unarmed strike, machete, double-barreled shotgun, just some road leathers, and not much else. Got the Zetans, Aliens. They have an alien blaster, 5 dice energy damage, fire rate 2, reliable. They're alien, so they can't be spoken with, but you can get from them an alien blaster. Wild. And we have the beginner adventure at the end here, so we'll skip through that. You can see it's quite detailed. You get to run into a lot of interesting things, interesting scenes. It's a nice 3-act structure. Then we have our appendices, which is your index, which is nicely detailed, I have to say. Nuka-Cola advert, and a character sheet. So you fill out your special attributes there, your level, to remind you how much you need to get the next one. All your different resistances on armors and whatnot for different locations. Your poison DR, your health, initiative, defense, and melee damage. Your skills, tick the box if they're tagged, and their rank. Your weapons and all their info. Then your ammo and quantities, your gear and how much they weigh, plus your carry weight. And then your perks and traits go over here. So that is Fallout, the role-playing game. It is an excellent game, in my opinion, strongly representative of the wonderful detailed world of the video game, and now enhanced even more by the arrival of the excellent TV series. It is very crunchy, as you can probably see, but if you like the video game, you're probably into all that collecting stuff and scavenging and building things, so you'll probably love it. I know I do, and it's one of the top choices out there right now, I think, for a post-apocalyptic game, particularly because it is very well supported. They've got 2 great, huge rule supplements, which we'll talk about in later videos. So yeah, look forward to that. I hope this was useful for you. I do strongly recommend this game if you're a fan of the franchise and a fan of post-apocalyptic role-playing. Don't forget to check out the description for a link to my Ko-fi account if you want to send me a donation for this expensive hobby of mine. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. I hope you got something out of this video, and I shall see you hopefully in the comments down below and in the next videos as well. So take care, and bye-bye.